R's in our pronunciation are very lazy. You don't tend to get that in the West Country so much, or even so much in Yorkshire, to be quite honest with you. You tend to sort of pronouncing your R's there, which is probably a little bit more proper come from, but interesting anyway. Can't believe you say my works of past is Mike Duncan and David Crowthers. I think surely most people wouldn't agree with that unless you're a major fan of this podcast, but a considerable compliment there. I can't thank you enough that anyone would ever say that. So I've got such respect for the work of Mike Duncan and David Crowther, like really, really much so. And certainly, even David Crowther's like lengths of his sort of his research are so considerable, and like just can't imagine being compared to those guys. But thank you so much indeed, and a very, very kind message. So we're fast approaching the end of Volume 3, and I'm sort of almost bored of hearing myself say it. I just can't believe it, really. I can't believe that we've made it, and I don't know why I can't believe it. Obviously, I set out to do it, but really, just when I look back at the amount of episodes that have been recorded, it's quite a considerable thing we've done, and now I look forward to Volume 4. I believe, we're going to be looking at 80 plus episodes in Volume 4 to cover that properly. So we're going to have to do it all over again. It's got quite a considerable project, isn't it? Looking at the history of the world. So, but I'm very much looking forward to it. And the stories are so entertaining that, to motivate myself to do it. It's not really a problem. I just love history and all the stories that come with it. It's very, very entertaining indeed. So looking forward to Volume 4 at this stage. It's quite an important week for the podcast, in actual fact. I'm heading off down to the Chalk Valley History Festival on Thursday and Friday of next week. I hope to see one or two of you down there. If you're down there, I don't know if anyone is planning a trip down there, but I'll be down there on the 24th and the 25th. I won't be there in any official capacity. I'll be just taking in the festival, just like everyone else. So I'll be like a public visitor, and it'll be my first time down there, so I can't wait to see what it's all about. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Thursday, the 24th, actually coincides with the third birthday of the History of the World podcast. So it's quite a very significant week for us. The third birthday of the podcast. So we started the podcast, or the first episode was published on the 24th of June 2018. So here we are 3 years later and almost completed 3 volumes. So very, very important and significant week for the History of the World podcast. And those of you who've been there with me right from the start, you hold a very special place in the heart of the podcast. And thank you so much for accompanying me on this long and entertaining journey. So next week we'll be looking to start the summary of the entire ancient period. We'll be mentioning things that we've not spoken of before, so they're not to be missed, the summary episodes. We're really just sort of filling in some of the gaps and just and taking a sweeping journey throughout the entire period. So a real needed summary, in my opinion. These summary episodes are very important in terms of our comprehension of everything that's going on. So don't miss it, please. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to it. I haven't read out some reviews for a couple of weeks. It's gone a bit quiet on the reviews front. I'm not sure why. But nonetheless, still come along and do it, and obviously get involved in all the interaction as well. The social media for the podcast as well is very much alive and kicking, and it's waiting for you to come in and get on board and become involved. The discussion forum, the Facebook page, even the unofficial Facebook page created by Jenna Osborne is definitely one to be involved in if you like talking about history. So come along, it's all on the website, historyoftheworldpodcast.com. Go to the interact section and get involved in talking history. Until next week, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, everyone, and be good. Come to the historyoftheworldpodcast.com and join all the other hot worlders on our wide range of social media. Why not support the podcast by clicking the Patreon link or buying me a book and becoming a lifelong member of the History of the World podcast Illuminati? Drop me a line at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com and let me know what you thought of this week's episode. See you next time.
Have you seen this one, Yosh?
And order 4 free at-home rapid tests. The reopening of the government website
The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler. Volume 3, The Classical World. Episode 76, A Summary of the Classical World, Part 1. We have covered a great deal of the world's events during our journey together through the classical period of world history. And now we are going to summarise the period which we have learned more about. This follows on somewhat from our summary of the ancient period of world history and the end of the Volume 2 summary which we presented in episode 37 in that volume. We left the ancient period during the first centuries of the first millennium BCE when the Assyrian Empire were mastering the use of iron, something that was first mastered by the Hittites. The Hittites were likely to have been forced to use iron due to a lack of tin imports, and with trade networks disrupted. It may have also been initially the case for the Assyrians, but this time ironmongery would become a preferred form of metallurgy to bronze, and its fashion would start its journey to becoming a global trend. We also saw the emergence of religious scriptures, as this would be the millennium where many religious and philosophical ideas would develop, many of which are still taken very seriously in the modern world. The lands of Israel would begin to have a significant religious meaning within the evolution of Abrahamic religion, which is still of paramount importance to many people to this very day. From now we can see the land of Israel, and particularly the city of Jerusalem, become the first land and city to become politically significant due to their sacred nature carrying so much weight among human population. We are also on the cusp of significant advances in philosophy, which can be compared to religion but without the spirituality, and both the advancement of philosophy and religion would have a profound influence on art and ritual, whether it be through the forum of poetry or theatre and other forms of entertainment which may even involve ritual sacrifice, or even through the development of portable and parietal art, which was a human tradition that dated back into prehistory, to a culture of giant statue building demonstrating the wonder of human ability. 700 BCE. Assyria conquered Israel towards the end of the 8th century BCE, bringing their iron weapons with them. The city of Jerusalem was certainly important and recognisable by this period of history, as recorded by both the Jews who lived there and the Assyrians who conquered them. Jerusalem was the site of a great Jewish temple, that had been built by King Solomon, the son of David, who were both significant in the establishment of Israel as a significant regional state. For the Assyrians, the conquest of Israel was just a small part of the expansion of their power, which was in a large part down to their 8th century ruler, Tiglath-Pileser III. Great expansion into the lands of the Urartu in the north and into the lands of Mesopotamia to the southeast could be added to the Assyrian list of conquests, as it was becoming the largest empire that the world had ever seen. But we will soon discover that it would not hold this claim for long in the great scheme of world history. We will find that the empires of Persia, Europe and China would eclipse the Assyrians in terms of land area. The Assyrians would continue their success after the lifetime of Tiglath-Pileser III by conquering Egypt, albeit quite briefly. Egypt, by this time, had gone from a mighty ancient power in its own right to a territory sought after by its powerful neighbours due to its wealth, but with military inferiority to the empires to its north. Egypt would always have an underlying self-identity which it fought to preserve, but it was never able to escape its defensive mindset that was not a feature of its politics during the 2nd millennium BCE. The Assyrian sacking of Thebes in the lands of the Upper Nile marked the apogee of Assyrian expansion. The late Bronze Age collapse occurred in around 1200 BCE, 500 years earlier. And it is likely that the weakening of many kingdoms and empires of the Near East dramatically affected the trade of tin, which was essential for bronze production. The substitution of iron gave the world a replacement that was harder to work with, but with higher quality results. Ironmongery had spread into the Balkan and Italian peninsulas by 700 BCE, possibly aided by the migrations of Indo-European speakers, but certainly not exclusively to them. We also see iron working in the Proto-Celtic Hallstatt culture of Central Europe by the middle of the 1st millennium BCE. Iron working would emerge in China in around the 7th or 6th century BCE, so this was very likely an independent emergence, which is very interesting. If we travel to the lands of the modern country of Nigeria in West Africa, we have firm evidence of iron working there by the middle of the 1st millennium BCE too, so yet another autonomous case on the face of it. The Nigerian cultures would have included the Nok culture and many Bantu-speaking people who would look to migrate towards the south of the African continent as the centuries passed after this time. Historians suspect that ironworking dates back many hundreds of years earlier in this part of the world though, much more in line with the Hittites, when they started mastering ironworking during the 2nd millennium BCE. While Assyria was at its peak as the dominant culture of the Near East, there were other cultures developing into imperial strength entities in other lands in the Mediterranean and the Near East too, which is significant because nothing had been seen on this scale for almost 500 years since the late Bronze Age collapse. The city of Carthage in the modern North African country of Tunisia was controlling many of the naval trade routes of the Mediterranean. The remnant of Mycenaean Greece was now witnessing the rise of cities who were beginning to gain influence over their surrounding agricultural villages. And some of the Greek cultures that had barely survived from the Mycenaean age through spoken language, ceramic production and mythological stories would create a cultural bond between these rival Greek city-states. The foundation of classical Greek culture dates back to this period, but we're not entirely sure about the accuracy of Greek claims about its own history. We know that the long-lasting tradition of the Olympic Games in Greece is accurately dated to 776 BCE, but there are some doubts about this due to a lack of writing in Greece at this precise time. We also see recordings of Greek mythologies and poetry dated to this period from the pens of Homer and Hesiod, whose personal existence is questioned by some. The motivation to fabricate the glory of the Olympic Games tradition and Greek mythology may have been to unite the Greek city-states against non-Greek cultures who would inevitably take an interest in their wealth, which would have been gathered by the same Mediterranean trade opportunities being exploited by the Carthaginians. We know all too well that all of these Mediterranean lands would eventually be under the influence of the Romans. And it's interesting to note that the mythology of the emergence of the city of Rome also dates to the 8th century BCE with the story of the twin brothers of Romulus and Remus. Archaeological evidence suggests that there was a settlement at Rome before this story, however, but it is more likely to have been under Etruscan or Latin influence originally, which wouldn't have suited the Romans, looking to promote their culture as superior to both of those. The rapid emergence of great cultures in the lands of Greece and the competition between them for wealth would bring power-hungry individuals to gather the influence of members of the population and attempt to overthrow the leaders of these cities, who were often selected from an elite group of people. These illegal usurpers of power are called tyrants, and although the word tyrant is used to describe a heartless leader in modern times, in historical terms it simply refers to someone who was not elected but who was either imposed upon or imposed himself upon the city-state. Some tyrants actually even improved things for the city-state in question. Greek culture wouldn't just be found on the Balkan Peninsula, but it would also be found in and around the lands of the Aegean Sea, so also the west coastal lands of Anatolia, which is the modern country of Turkey. The wealth of Greek culture was facilitated by virile trade activity, and we can see the minting of coins in use in both Greek societies and neighbouring kingdoms such as Lydia, which dominated the Anatolian landmass. Another indication of the rapid evolution of Greek culture can be detected within its written scriptures, which we can fortunately decipher. The Greek poet called Sappho was born on the island of Lesbos during the 7th century BCE, and his poetry was written in the form of lyrics, which, like the word tyrant, has subtly changed its specific meaning. Today we describe lyrics as the words to a song, often particularly a rock or pop song. In the classical Greek age, lyrics were the words of poetry that were specifically written to be recited alongside a performance on the lyre, which was a stringed musical instrument common in classical Greece. So the word lyric is taken directly from the name of the lyre. Lesbos is very close to the Anatolian coast, so this demonstrates that the centre of classical Greek culture is much better described as centred on the Aegean Sea rather than centred on the southern Balkan Peninsula. One of the most notable of all the major Greek cities was Athens, which rose to considerable status going into the 6th century BCE. This was thanks to a new constitution which was innovative, but also necessary to placate a growing population who were not intimidated by the ruling class. It was not unusual for people power to instigate social reform in some societies, especially in Rome during its own history. The reforms were constructed by a man called Solon, who himself did not seem to have ambitions of being a great leader, but seemed much more content to be a loyal Athenian. This was a great demonstration of patriotism in ancient times. 600 BCE. Greek patriotism would be tested hugely over the coming centuries as the city-states would become larger and more powerful to the point where they would begin to test each other. Add to this the fact that things were developing on a wider international scale that would eventually affect Greek lands directly, and the Greek cultural identity building would start to find a relevant place in the direction of world history. We learned that the greatest empire of this period was the Assyrian Empire, but the Assyrians would pay the price for rapid overexpansion, which often results in fragmentation when the many cultures within an empire rise up and bid for independence again. Too fresh in the memory of these cultures are the true identities of these peoples, and Assyria could be blamed for creating their own downfall when they helped to rebuild the conquered city of Babylon, giving their traditional enemies, the Babylonians, a foothold for a future uprising. Even the Assyrian strategy of deporting Jews out of Israel did not remove the cultural identity from Israel, which still maintained its Jewishness. To the north and the east of the Assyrian Empire were the steppe land Scythians and the Indo-European language-speaking Medes, who were ancestral to modern Iranians. Both the Scythians and the Medes were interested in exploiting the lands of others for their own wealth, and the Assyrians were very much on the list, as they were the threatening superpower to them both. The Babylonians would also rise up to take back their lands from the Assyrians, and it seems that all of Assyria's enemies believed that the ultimate elimination of the Assyrian Empire was the answer to their problems, so none of them were content to stop at regaining their own lost lands. The Assyrians were pinned back into their heartlands and the cities of Nineveh and Nimrud by the Medes and the Babylonians, and all of the expanse of the Assyrian lands which made up their vast empire were now lost. By the end of the 7th century BCE, the Assyrians were no more, with both the Medes and the Babylonians now in control of the vast lands that were once Assyrian. The Babylonians were in control of the lands to the south, and if the residents of Jerusalem had thought to celebrate the downfall of their Assyrian conquerors and the empire that deported great numbers of their population, then worse was to come when the Babylonians turned their attention towards them. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II would also recognise the cultural bonds that made Jerusalem dangerous and banished the Jewish population to Babylon in an act that resonates to unite Abrahamic religious populations in their eternal struggle against their religious enemies. This event is now an iconic event which represents a greater struggle, and many would not even know the backstory due to its comparative insignificance compared to its iconic place in today's human consciousness. Within a couple of generations, it would be the Babylonian Empire who would become the victims of aggression when a new power emerged from the lands in and around the historic territory of Elam, which at this time was within the Empire of the Medes. These people were the original Persians, also of Iranian stock, and they would rise to take control of the Median Empire. Their leader was the king Cyrus II. After Cyrus took control of the Median Empire, therefore creating the first Persian Empire, he would take control of the lands of the Lydians in Anatolia, before turning his attention south towards the Babylonians. Defeat of the Babylonians would mean freedom from exile for the Jews in Babylon, something that was predicted in a book written by the prophet Isaiah from the previous century that is contained in the Old Testament of the Bible. Some Jews chose to stay in their home in Babylon, but others returned to their spiritual home in Jerusalem, where they found a group of peoples called the Samaritans had made Jerusalem their own home during the Jewish absence. Although Cyrus of Persia is celebrated within Abrahamic literature as a liberator of God's people, Cyrus himself was not of Abrahamic principles, as the Persian religion of this age was Zoroastrianism, and Zoroastrianism itself could be linked ancestrally to the origins of the Vedic scriptures and beliefs which emerged in Indian lands, due to the fact that ancient Iranians and Indians are ancestrally linked through their own branch of Indo-European peoples called the Indo-Iranians. The Indo-Iranians, also referred to as the Aryans, may have started migrating from the Eurasian steppe around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, with the Iranian branch establishing the Median and Persian empires, and the Indic branch establishing new culture in the Indian subcontinent, even as far as the modern island of Sri Lanka, where they would become the Sinhalese people. This was a period of the recognition of great thinkers and new philosophies all over the known world, though. In the Far East, we can see the emergence of philosophies such as Taoism and Confucianism, with the lifetimes of their respective forefathers, Lao Tzu and Confucius, during the 6th century BCE. Incidentally, this is also a time where the Japanese also suggest that their own first emperor was alive. In the Indian subcontinent, Mahavira instigated the birth of Jainism, and Prince Siddhartha would attain full enlightenment to become the first preacher of Buddhism. Buddhism would always remain a minority religion in the Indian subcontinent, though, due to the prominence of another Vedic religion called Brahmanism, which would develop to become modern Hinduism. It is from Brahmanism that we can see the emergence of the Indian caste system, which provides everybody with a social status which they are born into. 500 BCE. Greece was also no exception to philosophical development during this time period, and we can see a shift in thinking that may have kept Greece at the forefront of academia during the later years of the first millennium BCE. This method of thinking was called rationalism and sought to ignore mythologizing and spirituality in favor of practicality and pragmatism. By developing ideas that relied purely on observation and science, the Greek polymaths and academics would open their minds to a wider range of ideas and possibilities that would lead to the celebration of many great scholars over the course of the next few centuries. The icon of this change in thinking was a man called Thales of Miletus, who has been dubbed the father of science by some. His intelligence was put to good use when predicting the height of the pyramids and the occurrence of eclipses by using mathematics. But he is most well known for his rational thinking, which influenced a great many academics. The 6th century is also suggested to be the birth of the Greek philosopher called Pythagoras, who is known in the modern world for the Pythagoras theorem, for calculating the length of a hypotenuse of a right-angled triangle. In reality, I believe that Thales would have surely known this equation before Pythagoras, and that Pythagoras' contribution to history relates much more to philosophy than mathematics. Pythagoras even had a theory of ascetic living that was not completely unlike the philosophy of the Buddha in the Indian subcontinent. He would also believe that the soul was reincarnated, which is yet another similarity to the philosophies of the Buddha. Pythagoras' philosophies would migrate with Greek naval explorers who colonised foreign lands, such as those of the southern tip of the Italian peninsula, which has been referred to as Magna Graecia as a consequence. And Magna Graecia was known to contain Pythagorean communities. The overseas expansion of some of the Greek city-states was reflective of the scramble for wealth to sustain the competition over each other. And there would also be half an eye on the growing power of the Persians, who under King Cyrus had conquered Lydia, bringing his Achaemenid Persian Empire to the border of the Greek cultural lands of Western Anatolia. Athens underwent major constitutional reforms under the guidance of Clisthenes, which some have cited as the first form of Western democracy. Achaemenid Persian expansion was very aggressive, with the annexation of the fruitful lands of the Nile River in Egypt and an eastward expansion to the Indus Valley, which created a vast and powerful empire, larger than the world had ever seen. King Darius I would put great effort into the infrastructure of this vast empire, with a project of road building to hasten trade and travel times, and a canal that would connect the Nile River to the Red Sea, and therefore offer the first efficient sea route from the Mediterranean to the Indus Delta, facilitating the wealth of the Achaemenids. The Achaemenid trade links transmitted goods such as rice, peaches and apricots to the western lands of their empire. The attempted monopolisation of sea trade was a definite problem for the Greek city-states, who were generally opposed to one another, but could all suffer together if the Achaemenids were allowed to take over. The Achaemenids initially interfered in Greek affairs by attempting to annex the Greek-speaking city-states of Western Anatolia by installing their own tyrant rulers, who would be subservient to the central Achaemenid imperial court. These Ionian city-states revolted in the early 5th century BCE, and although the Achaemenids put down the revolt, the Athenians knew that conflict with the Achaemenids would be inevitable. It would not be long before the Achaemenids would head towards the Balkan Peninsula, crossing the Aegean Sea by water and the Hellespont by land, signifying an iconic invasion of Europe by an Asiatic society that would symbolise the cultural split between Europe and Asia that is still very recognisable in today's world. When Darius I of Achaemenid Persia attempted to attack Athens, the Athenians would prevent them from landing on the Balkan Peninsula at the Battle of Marathon, and it would take another 10 years before a larger Achaemenid military force would return under the leadership of Darius I's son, Xerxes. This time, a greater confederacy of Greek city-states would support the Athenians, including the very able and brave Spartans, who were a traditional Greek enemy of the Athenians. Athens was almost completely lost to the Achaemenids, but for the genius of a man called Themistocles, an Athenian statesman who created a wooden wall of Greek ships that caused chaos to the Achaemenid fleet and allowed the Greeks to either slaughter the Achaemenids or watch them flee for safety. The Athenians had repelled the Achaemenids. Once the Achaemenids had gone, the Athenians went to great lengths to create a permanent confederacy of Greek-speaking poleis, or city-states, called the Confederacy of Delos, which essentially was an Athenian attempt to become an empire. This was something that the Spartans were most powerful of all of the Greek city-states. Elsewhere in the world, and to the north of Magna Graecia, the small city-state of Rome was slowly beginning to create its own area of influence, which would keep the neighbouring Etruscans out of the neighbouring Latin populations. The expulsion of the Roman king Tarquin the Proud at the end of the 6th century BCE, who had Etruscan links. The city of Rome would then be ruled in much more of an oligarchic fashion, not too dissimilar to the nature of the Greek city-states. This would be the start of what is historically referred to as the Roman Republic. In the Far East, the culture of China would begin to spread out, despite the fact that the central state did not maintain a great deal of control over the many different states that made up the lands under the influence of the Zhou dynasty. There would be constant competition between the states, not unlike that being experienced in Greece between the city-states there. Despite this competition, cultural advancement was enhanced rather than suppressed. Rice farming would migrate to Japan from China, which is not unlike the cultural movement of pottery during the Paleolithic that is suspected to have migrated to Japan also. Confucian teachings have managed to touch a greater amount of people within Chinese societies, successfully spreading within the populations of different Chinese states. It is possible that ironmongery made its way into the cultures of Vietnam in Southeast Asia from China too. Claims that Chinese silk were found in Athens at date period. I'm not sure about whether to take this seriously because some discoveries of silk have actually turned out to be different fibres after further careful examination. We have not mentioned the Americas yet either. This is because America's history is very independent from the rest of the world due to its isolation. The Paracas culture had emerged in the southern lands of the modern country of Peru during this period, on the southern fringes of the lands, influenced by the Chavin culture. This was in South America and distant from other emerging cultures of Mesoamerica, which are the lands at the south of the modern country of Mexico. We see a culture called the Zapotecs emerging with their own brand of hieroglyphic writing and centered at the influential capital city of Monte Albán. The history of the cultures of the Americas is extremely scant from this period and considerably scant when we can identify so many individuals and the stories of their individual lives in the Mediterranean area and the Far East. We've run out of time. This week, and we're probably only about a quarter of the way through the summary, so we could be going for another 3 episodes. Yeah, I did think I could cram it into fewer episodes, but I'm not sure that I can if I want to do it nice and properly. I think we're going to be summarising for the next 3 episodes, so we'll end up with a total of 79 episodes, which is quite incredible in itself. But if you're enjoying the History of the World podcast and you'd like to support the History of the World podcast, then simply go to our Patreon page, which you can find by visiting the very good History of the World podcast.com website. That's got lots of stuff on there, such as social media and bibliography and links to other things that can complement some of the content of the podcast episodes. And obviously there you have the Patreon link. If you click on the Patreon link, you can sign up to make a monthly contribution to the podcast, which really truly does help the podcast to continue going and to flourish as well. So we'd really like to see you help out. And if you do help out, you become a lifelong member of the History of the World podcast, Illuminati. And I have some new members to welcome this week. We've got Janice Truty, Keith Rowe, Aaron Hurties, and Pre Carpenter, all now new members of the History of the World podcast, Illuminati. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry if I pronounced any of your names incorrectly. But you're all most welcome to the History of the World podcast, Illuminati. And if you go along to the Patreon page, you can see that you can qualify for rewards as well. So it's definitely worth considering. And you'll be supporting the podcast while you're at it. Now, this week I have been buying books, but I bought some books. Very unusual place, I mentioned it last week, at the Chalk Valley History Festival, which is actually still going on, but I've come home to record this wonderful episode for you guys, so I peeled off early and came home. But I did really enjoy my time down there, and I got to meet lots of wonderful people and listen to lots of fantastic lectures, and it's highly recommended. There's a lot of practical demonstrations down there, and very, very well worth a visit. And most time periods are covered there, and I really do recommend it. If you live in the UK and you can travel to the Salisbury Plains, then please do consider going to the Chalk Valley History Festival. It's a wonderful event, and you can help to keep it going, and we'll all have a wonderful place where we can converge and talk all things history. So highly recommended, and thank you very much to everyone who was down there. I'll start posting some links on my social media pages to the experts that were down there and their own personal businesses. So I'll start doing that over the course of the next few days, I think. I got sent a message from Alvin Santiago. What a great name. He's put, I have just discovered your podcast on Spotify, and I'm currently still in the early stage of it, volume 1. I must say that it has been very entertaining and educational. I really appreciate the hard work that you've put into this. Thank you. Well, thank you for taking the time to write to me, Alvin. It's very kind when everyone writes in and just lets me know you're out there. It's nice to hear from you guys. So I really do appreciate your messages, and I'm only too happy to read them out. A couple of new reviews for the podcast. Francois Bernier from Canada has put, Chris's podcast on the history of the world is brilliant, well researched, accessible and stunningly engaging. I'm devouring the seasons and find myself reflecting back with new appreciation on many of the places I've travelled to, but more so on our incredible history. I'm hooked. And KD Madigan 2000 from the USA has put, fantastic podcast. For anyone who's interested in history, this podcast is one of the best. Neutral in presentation with level of detail that allows listeners to further investigate areas of interest. Keep up the great work, Kelly Madigan. Well, thank you, both of you, for those fantastic reviews, and I hope you get to hear them read out at the end of this podcast. I hope you make it to this point. We're almost at the end of volume 3. We've only got a few episodes left to go. We're summarising, and then that will be it. And then I'll be scratching my head wondering what to do for a few weeks while I prepare for volume 4. It was, of course, a History of the World podcast's 3rd birthday this week just gone, and I'd like to thank every one of you who has been with me throughout this journey and who supported the podcast by continuing to listening. Oh, goodness me, I'm tripping over my tongue, I'm sorry. For everyone who continues to listen to it, it really does help to promote the podcast up the charts. And all of your listens, your downloads, we're sort of, well over 1.75 million downloads now, all time. So thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't believe here we are 3 years in and still throwing out weekly episodes. I never thought I could do that, so but I do believe it is down to your support and your kind words that have helped to keep me motivated, so thank you everyone. Next week we'll be continuing the story of the classical age, getting ever nearer to medieval times, and until next week when we link up again and we do it all over again, promise me that you'll be good. Come to the History of the World podcast.com and join all the other hot worlders on our wide range of social media. Why not support the podcast by clicking the Patreon link or buying me a book and becoming a lifelong member of the History of the World podcast Illuminati? Drop me a line at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com and let me know what you thought of this week's episode. See you next time. The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler. Volume 3, The Classical World. Episode 77, The Classical World Summary, Part 2. Much focus was on the turmoil of Greek-speaking societies at the end of the 5th century BCE. But despite the turmoil, the Greek-speaking societies were at the forefront of world academia. The traditions of Greek lyrical poetry, made popular by Sappho, were being continued by celebrated poets such as Pindar. A celebration of Greek scribes took place at a regular festival in Athens called the Great Dionysia. Dramas were written to be performed, and the best dramas would be performed at the Great Dionysia before a panel of judges who would select a winner, who would be presented with an ivy wreath. Both Aeschylus and Sophocles were highly respected writers of dramas called tragedies, and they would return to the Great Dionysia many times to each be victorious during the 5th century BCE, even known to compete against each other. After Aeschylus' heyday, a younger tragedian called Euripides would also win the ivy wreath on multiple occasions. The Greeks didn't just write tragedies though, as they would also write comedies, with Aristophanes being one of the most celebrated comedy writers. As mentioned in the last episode, the Greek rationalist train of thought would comprise the mythological stories of the pantheon of Greek gods, and two of the earliest great Greek historians would highlight this division in philosophy. Herodotus always wrote with a high regard for the gods and heroes of Greek mythology and would often compare them to the deities of other cultures, such as the Phoenicians, for example. Herodotus's contemporary was a historian called Thucydides, who was known for having a much more rationalist style of writing. Theory of medicines was recorded by a highly respected physician called Hippocrates. The Greeks were known for celebrating the human form with their athletic Olympians representing the pinnacle of human form, and subsequently many statues were sculpted of naked humans in all their glory. One of the great sculptors from this period was Praxiteles, but it was a man called Phidias who would sculpt the statue of Zeus at Olympia, which would be named as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Phidias was also responsible for one of the more impressive pieces of architecture called the Parthenon, which he designed. It would take pride of place on top of the Athenian Acropolis, which stood tall over the city itself. This was a golden age for Athens, often called the Age of Pericles, after the great statesman who led the city-state with great competence and confidence, that embodied the feeling of the Athenians in the generations that followed their amazing defeat of the mighty Achaemenid Persians at the beginning of the 5th century BCE. The one city-state who defied the Athenians, who by the age of Pericles had subjugated many of the Greek-speaking poleis who once formed the Delian League, was the city-state of Sparta. Sparta and Athens had never seen eye to eye, and only ever supported each other when they both fought against the Achaemenid Persians under their king Xerxes I at the start of the 5th century BCE. Sparta resented Athens for attempting to overrule Greek-speaking lands, considering themselves to be the greatest Greek-speaking entity. This tension would erupt into a full-scale war between the two called the Peloponnesian War, which drew in most of the Greek-speaking poleis, who were forced to pick sides in this long drawn-out conflict, which would do little to help either party in the long run. Despite Athens' dominance being compromised to a huge degree by the Spartans, Greek philosophy continued to flourish, but with controversial thought influencing an unsettled younger generation of a severely weakened Athens, the philosopher called Socrates was found guilty of corrupting the youth within the city and was executed. Socrates had left an academic legacy which was picked up by his student Plato, who set up the first Greek academy of thinking and learning, and one of his students was a man called Aristotle. We mentioned that the Hallstatt culture was established as an Indo-European speaking peoples who were using iron and spoke a form of Proto-Celtic. By 400 BCE, we can assume that they were distinctly Celtic, and the cultures in the early Roman Republic called these people the Gauls. Often Latin can be referred to as a typical type site for this brand of Celtic culture, and it was certainly active at this time in history. Rome at this time was really just a powerful city-state in the north of the Italian peninsula, and the Etruscans, who had once created a ruling dynasty over Rome, were still in control of the lands to Rome's north and stood between Rome and the lands of the Celts. The Celts were a warrior race, though, and used to creating their own fortune at the expense of others, and some described the Etruscans as being a race certainly more closely related to the Celts than to the Romans. The Romans' mythology was linked very closely to the Greek mythology, with very similar deities comparable to those of Greece, which point towards a cultural exchange at some point before this time. It is likely that Greek merchants and explorers discovered Rome and built trade links with it that would facilitate the growth of both Roman and Greek cultures. The Romans built a great temple on top of the Capitoline Hill in honour of 3 specific deities. Jupiter, who was the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Zeus, the king of the gods. Jupiter's consort called Juno, who was the queen of the gods, and the equivalent of the Greek goddess Hera. Finally, the third member of the Capitoline triad was Minerva, a Roman goddess and a daughter of Jupiter, who would come to be compared to the Greek goddess Athena. Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva had their own dedicated temples within a temple complex on the Capitoline hill. And it would be the geese within the temple of Juno who would cackle loudly as the Celts approached Rome from the north in the year 390 BCE. This warning was not enough to enable the Romans to prevent the Celts from sacking the city before negotiating a tribute and leaving the Romans to rebuild their city. This Celtic invasion would live long and hard in the memory of the Romans for centuries to come. 300 BCE. The city-states of Greece, such as Athens and Sparta, had been greatly weakened by their conflicts with each other in the Peloponnesian War during the previous century, the 5th century BCE. And so neighbouring city-states and kingdoms no longer saw any necessity to see themselves as inferior to these once great entities and would be happy to stand up for themselves. One of the neighbouring territories gaining power to the north of the traditional Greek city-states was Macedon, and in the middle of the 4th century BCE, their king was Philip II. Philip II would approach the Greek polymath Aristotle to be a teacher to his son, Alexander. Macedon became so powerful that Philip II would lead an army to victory over a coalition of Greek forces at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE. Alexander would accompany his father Philip on this campaign. When Philip died in 336 BCE, his son Alexander took his throne and would punish the Greeks for attempting to rise up against him. Alexander would then embark on a major campaign of conquest, and he would target the Achaemenid Persians. The Achaemenid Persians were not as strong as they may have once been, and Alexander III of Macedon would recognise an opportunity to capitalise on this. Alexander would defeat the Achaemenid Persians, led by their ruler Darius III at Issus, and then quickly move to take control of the wealthy territory of Egypt in order to boost his resources and cement his supply lines. Alexander would then finish off the Achaemenid Persians at Gaugamela and took all of the territory up to the Indian subcontinent, all within just a few years. This was an astonishing achievement, which left us considering Alexander the Great as one of the greatest military generals of all time. The Achaemenid Persian Empire was now history. Many cities were founded or renamed in Alexander's honour, with the most famous of all being the great city of Alexandria in Egypt. It's interesting to speculate as to whether Alexander the Great ever encountered another great historical ruler when he reached his easternmost point, as these would have been the lands of the Indian subcontinent during the young life of Chandragupta Maurya. The lands of India had now developed considerably, with many new settlements along the river systems founded by the Indic migrants who had spread into these lands following the disappearance of the Harappans 1,000 years earlier. It would not be long after the premature death of Alexander the Great that Chandragupta Maurya established his own powerful empire within the Indian subcontinent. This was the Maurya Empire, the first great empire of India, established in and around the lands of the Ganges River, which was the same area of the world that the Buddha had achieved his enlightenment almost a couple of centuries previous. As for Alexander's new territories, they were thrown into chaos, with many of Alexander's great generals believing that they should have a share of the spoils, and so the territories of Alexander's empire were carved up between many individuals. These individuals were certainly not all content with their share, and subsequent councils and skirmishes took place in order to restore some kind of stability. The situation would take a number of decades to be resolved, and this would be called the Age of the Diadochi, a Latin term for successors. Ptolemy Soter would take control of Egypt and declare his independence from the rest of the remnants of Alexander's empire, leaving the lands of Macedon, Syria, and Pergamum to sort out their own differences. Seleucus Nicator would take control of the lands of Mesopotamia and the vast expanse of territory eastwards, up to the extent of the Maurya Empire. This would be the new Seleucid Empire that would also expand their territory west to effectively replace what was the Achaemenid Persian Empire as the vast empire in the lands of the Near East. The entire balance of power of the lands in and around the Mediterranean Sea had changed. For some it was beneficial. The new Ptolemaic rulers in Egypt started to try to restore the former glory of these lands. A huge library was built in Alexandria, iconic of the continuation of Greek academia in Egyptian lands. Ptolemaic Egypt would also develop commercial bonds with other lands, such as the island of Rhodes, in order to stay one step ahead of its post-Macedonian Empire rivals. And Rhodes would enjoy a period of prosperity that enabled them to build a huge statue by the entrance to its harbour that would be known as the Colossus of Rhodes, once again one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Moving into the 3rd century BCE, the Republic of Rome would start to move its focus southwards, mainly because of the activity to the south potentially becoming problematic for them. Firstly, the Samnites of the middle of the Italian peninsula had a conflict of interest with the Romans, who were essentially preventing each other from having too much influence on the societies of Middle Italy. The result would be the conquest of the Samnites and a significant expansion of Roman territory. This signifies the start of the Roman rise to dominance and the gradual construction of its vast empire. In a similar manner to Greece, academia and the arts in China continued to progress despite the fact that the states of China were continually at war with one another. This was the Warring States period of Chinese history, and also a period where China was still somewhat isolated from the cultures elsewhere in the world. Despite this, the 3 well-known philosophical branches of Taoism, legalism, and Confucianism continued to develop. Poetry existed in China, with one celebrated poet called Zhu Yan believed to have been alive during the Warring States period. If he was a real person and not just a legendary figure, then it may be accurate to describe him as China's first major poet. The situation in China was about to alter dramatically, as one state in particular was about to start a totalitarian approach to gaining full control of China. They were the state of Qin, and in the year 260 BCE, they would deal a defeat to the powerful neighbouring state of Zhao at the Battle of Changping, which would signal a great decline of Qin power and influence. The Maurya Empire in India persevered as the most powerful imperial entity in Indian history, and was now under the rule of Ashoka the Great. Ashoka was a ruthless warrior who was reported to have had a change of heart after reflecting on the human carnage of warfare, and he chose to embrace the Buddhist traditions that existed as a minority in his lands. It is also speculated in some forums that the origins of what we can describe as the Hopewell chieftains started to emerge in North America. These chieftains existed in the USA's Midwestern region, and particularly to the south of the Great Lakes. The Hopewell chieftains didn't all share the same culture, but did seem to develop who could trade and network with each other, but their prominent years would have been in the following centuries. 200 BCE. One of the most notable of all events that straddle this period are the Punic Wars. After the Romans had defeated the Samnites and taken control of their lands, they would also take the lands of the southern Italian peninsula, otherwise referred to as Magna Graecia, after many had shown loyalty to the invading pirate kingdom from the Balkan Peninsula. The Carthaginians in Sicily had also had to defend their territory from the pirates. Once they had gone, the Carthaginians tried to take control of the whole of Sicily, which brought them and their interests a little bit too close to the Romans for comfort. And so a military encounter became inevitable, and it would affect the entire Western Mediterranean and all of its surrounding lands. Initially, the conflict would be confined to the lands and seas in and around the island of Sicily, which Carthage had occupied in part for a number of centuries. After a long period of time, the Romans were able to get the better of Carthage and expel them from Sicily. The Carthaginians returned to North Africa, embarrassed and humiliated by the Romans, and harbouring a hunger for vengeance. The man who would lead the attempted retribution was called Hannibal, and he would achieve an incredible feat by crossing the Alps with a huge entourage before heavily defeating a Roman army on their very own soil at the Battle of Cannae. However, a man called Scipio launched an attack on Carthaginian territory and took control of the coastal lands of Hispania away from Carthage and into Roman hands, therefore extending their empire once again. Both Hannibal and Scipio would end up in a showdown on North African soil when they met at the Battle of Zama. Scipio was the victor, and Carthage was forced into a weak position by Rome, who now had all the power in the Western Mediterranean. Now, Rome could look to the Greek lands for their next issue, as there had been tension carried over from the earlier days of the Punic War, which Rome had not been able to prioritise dealing with. Macedonia was now no match for the Romans, who conquered them at the Battle of Pydna and split Macedonia in order to prevent it from rising up again. Before the Battle of Zama had taken place, the Romans had dealt with an uprising of the city of Syracuse in Sicily, the home city of the famous scientist called Archimedes. Archimedes' famous moment was when he took a bath and realised that the displaced water would be equal to the volume of his body. And so he ran down the street without his clothes on, shouting, "Eureka!" Archimedes lost his life as a man in his 70s following the Roman success of besieging Syracuse.
Random House Audio presents 50 Shades Freed by E.L. James. Read for you by Becca Bateau.
Because a man called Arsaces was crowned
Prologue.
the king of the Parni people.
Mommy,
They had taken
Mommy,
control of the lands of Parthia.
Mommy is asleep on the floor.
To the
She has
east
been
of the
asleep for a
Caspian
long
Sea.
time. I
These
brush her
lands were
hair
on the
because
northern
she
fringe
likes
of the
that.
Seleucid Empire,
She doesn't wake up.
border onto lands
I shake
controlled
her.
by steppe cultures
Mommy,
such as the
my
Scythian,
tummy hurts.
and
It is
previously
hungry.
been among the
He isn't
northern
here.
extremities of
I am
Alexander the
thirsty.
Great's lands, and
In the
New
kitchen,
Kingdom
I pull a
Persians.
chair to the sink, and I have a drink.
This new
The water
Parthian
splashes
kingdom
over my blue
eventually
sweater.
created a
Mommy
big
is still
problem
asleep.
for the Seleucid Empire.
Mommy, wake up. She lies
Directly
still.
east of Parthia
She is
were
cold.
the lands of Bactria.
I fetch my
A few
blankie,
decades
and I
later,
cover
the
Mommy,
Bactrian kings,
and
who
I
had
lie
also
down
been
on the
subject
sticky
to the
green rug
Seleucids,
beside her.
took full
Mommy
advantage
is
of the
still
fall of the
asleep.
warrior empire of the
I have 2
subcontinent
toy cars.
and pushed
They
their
race by the
influence
floor
into
where
the
Mommy
lands
is sleeping.
of the northwest
I think Mommy is
subcontinent,
sick.
creating
I
independent
search for
kingdoms
something
that
to
shared
eat.
Greek and
In the freezer,
cultural
I find
aspects.
peas. They are
The
cold.
Bactrian kings,
I eat them slowly.
Demetrius and
They
Menander,
make my tummy hurt.
and their new kingdoms would
I
help
sleep
to preserve
beside Mommy.
aspects of Greek
The
culture
peas are gone.
that migrated
In the
thousands
freezer
of
is
miles
something.
from their place of
It
origin.
smells funny. I lick it and my tongue is stuck to it.
The Jinn
I
had
eat
by
it
this time
slowly.
taken
It
control of the
tastes
whole of
nasty.
China.
I
After
drink some
breaking
water.
reforms of its constitution,
I play with my
it tended
cars
one
and I
step ahead
sleep
of its
beside Mommy.
competitors.
Mommy
The man
is so
referred to
cold
as the first
and she
true
won't wake up.
emperor of all of
The
China
door
was
crashes
the
open.
ruler of the
I
Jinn,
cover Mommy with my
therefore
blankie.
called Jinn
He's here.
Shi Huang.
Fuck! What the
Jinn
fuck happened
dynasty
here?
was very
Oh,
short-lived,
the
and
crazy
after
fucked up
Jinn Shi
bitch.
Huang's
Shit.
death, the
Fuck.
peasant court
Get out of my way,
Yuan
you little
would
shit.
rise from the chaos
He kicks
left
me,
behind,
and I hit my head on the floor. My head hurts. He calls somebody and he goes. He locks the door. I lay down beside Mommy. My head hurts. The lady policeman is here. No, no, no. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I stay by Mommy. No, stay away from me. The lady policeman has my blankie, and she grabs me. I scream, Mommy, Mommy, I want my Mommy. The words are gone. I can't say the words. Mommy can't hear me. I have no words. Christian! Christian! Her voice is urgent, pulling him from the depths of his nightmare, the depths of his despair. I'm here! I'm here! He wakes and she's leaning over him, grasping his shoulders, shaking him. Her face etched with anguish, blue eyes wide and brimming with tears. Anna. His voice is a breathless whisper, the taste of fear tarnishing his mouth. You're here. Of course I'm here. I had a dream. I know. I'm here. I'm here. Anna. He breathes her name, and it's a talisman against the black, choking panic coursing through his body. Hush! I'm here. She curls around him, her limbs cocooning him, her warmth leaching into his body, forcing back the shadows, forcing back the fear. She is sunshine. She is light. She is his. Please, let's not fight. His voice is hoarse as he wraps his arms around her. Okay. The vows. No obeying. I can do that. We'll find a way. The words rush out of his mouth in a tumble of emotion and confusion and anxiety. Yes, we will. We'll always find a way. She whispers, and her lips are on his, silencing him, bringing him back to the now.
Couple this with the fact that many felt that Rome
Chapter 1.
far too heavily in favor of the
I stare up through gaps in the seagrass parasol at the bluest of skies, summer blue, Mediterranean blue, with a contented sigh. Christian is beside me, stretched out on a sun lounger. My husband, my hot, beautiful husband, shirtless and in cut-off jeans, is reading a book predicting the collapse of the Western banking system. By all accounts, it's a page-turner. I haven't seen him sit this still, ever. He looks more like a student than the hotshot CEO of one of the top privately owned companies in the United States. On the final leg of our honeymoon, we laze in the afternoon sun on the beach of the aptly named Beach Plaza Monte Carlo in Monaco, although we're not actually staying in this hotel. I open my eyes and gaze out at the fair lady anchored in the harbor. We are staying, of course, on board a luxury motor yacht. Built in 1928, she floats majestically on the water, queen of all the yachts in the harbor. She looks like a child's wind-up toy. Christian loves her. I suspect he's tempted to buy her. Honestly, boys and their toys. Sitting back, I listen to the Christian Grey mix on my new iPod and doze in the late afternoon sun, idly remembering his proposal. Oh, his dreamy proposal in the boathouse. I can almost smell the scent of the meadow flowers. Can we marry tomorrow? Christian murmurs softly in my ear. I am sprawled on his chest in the flowery bower in the boathouse, sated from our passionate lovemaking. Is that a yes? I hear his hopeful surprise. A no? I sense his grin. Miss Steele, are you incoherent? I grin. He laughs and hugs me tightly, kissing the top of my head. Vegas, tomorrow. It is then. Sleepily, I raise my head. I don't think my parents would be very happy with that. He thrums his fingertips up and down my naked back, caressing me gently. What do you want, Anastasia? Vegas? A big wedding with all the trimmings? Tell me. Not big, just friends and family. I gaze up at him, moved by the quiet entreaty in his glowing gray eyes. What does he want? Okay. He nods. Where? I shrug. Could we do it here? He asks tentatively. Your folks' place? Would they mind? He snorts. My mother would be in seventh heaven. Okay, here. I'm sure my mom and dad would prefer that. He strokes my hair. Could I be any happier? So we've established where. Now, the when. Surely you should ask your mother. Christian's smile dips. She can have a month. That's it. I want you too much to wait any longer. Christian, you have me. You've had me for a while. But okay, a month it is. I kiss his chest, a soft, chaste kiss, and smile up at him. You'll burn, Christian whispers in my ear, startling me from my doze. Only for you. I give him my sweetest smile. The late afternoon sun has shifted, and I am under its full glare. He smirks, and in one swift move pulls my sun lounger into the shade of the parasol. Out of the Mediterranean sun, Mrs. Gray. Thank you for your altruism, Mr. Gray. My pleasure, Mrs. Gray, and I'm not being altruistic at all. If you burn, I won't be able to touch you. He raises an eyebrow, his eyes shining with mirth. And my heart expands. But I suspect you know that, and you're laughing at me. Would I? I gasp, feigning innocence. Yes, you would, and you do. Often. It's one of the many things I love about you. He leans down and kisses me, playfully biting my lower lip. I was hoping you'd rub me down with more sunscreen. I pout against his lips. Mrs. Gray, it's a dirty job, but that's an offer I can't refuse. Sit up, he orders, his voice husky. I do as I'm told, and with slow, meticulous strokes from strong and supple fingers, he coats me in sunscreen. You really are very lovely. I'm a lucky man. He murmurs as his fingers skim over my breasts, spreading the lotion. Yes, you are, Mr. Gray. I gaze coyly up at him through my lashes. Modesty becomes you, Mrs. Gray. Turn over. I want to do your back. Smiling, I roll over, and he undoes the back strap of my hideously expensive bikini. How would you feel if I went topless, like the other women on the beach? I ask, displeased. He says without hesitation, I'm not very happy about you wearing so little right now. He leans down and whispers in my ear, don't push your luck. Is that a challenge, Mr. Gray? No, it's a statement of fact, Mrs. Gray. I sigh and shake my head. Oh, Christian, my possessive, jealous, control freak Christian. When he's finished, he slaps my behind. You'll do, wench. His ever-present, ever-active BlackBerry buzzes. I frown and he smirks.
automatically
My eyes only, Mrs. Gray. He raises his
Extreme
eyebrow in
overall
playful
podcast
warning,
terminology.
slaps my backside once more,
Very
and
exclusive
sits back down on his
for those
lounger to
who
take the
do
call.
make financial
My inner
support
goddess
of
purrs.
the podcast
Maybe tonight we could do some kind of floor show for his eyes only. She smirks knowingly, arching a brow. I grin at the thought and drift back into my afternoon siesta. Manzella, à Perrier pour moi, à Coca-Cola Light pour ma femme, s'il vous plaît. Et quoi que je suis à manger, laissez-moi voir la carte. Christian-speaking fluent French wakes me. My eyelashes flutter in the glare of the sun, and I find Christian watching me while a liveried young woman walks away, her tray held aloft, her high blonde ponytail swinging provocatively.
Thank you very much.
Thirsty,
Thank you for
he
supporting the
asks.
project. Like I say,
Yes,
it really
I mutter
does
sleepily.
make a difference.
I could
Let's
watch you all
move on
day.
to listener
Tired?
messages now.
I flush.
While I've been recording
I
this
didn't
podcast,
get much
I
sleep
received
last
an
night.
email from
Me
Harmony,
neither.
who's put,
He
"Hello, I
grins,
found your
puts
podcast
down
by
his
searching
BlackBerry,
Google
and
Featured
stands.
Podcasts, and have so
His
far
shorts
listened to
fall a
couple
little
of
and
episodes.
hang
I'm very
in
impressed
that
by your
way,
extensive
so
list
his
of
swim
episodes
trunks
and how
are
much
visible
you've covered.
beneath.
I'm especially
Christian
interested
takes
in
his
learning
shorts off,
about
stepping out of his
conquest,
flip-flops.
both by
I
emperors
lose my
and
train of
also
thought.
by local
Come
rulers,
for a
but
swim
not
with
just
me.
in broad terms
He
of
holds out his
economic
hand while I look up at him,
details of what
dazed.
the conquerors did to the
Swim?
conquered, how
He
the
says
lives of the
again,
conquered
cocking his
were
head to one
protected.
side,
Have
an
you
amused
discussed this
expression
with
on his
your
face.
episodes? And if so,
When I don't
can you
respond,
please let
he
me
shakes
know?
his head
If not,
slowly.
can you recommend
I
any other
think you need a
podcasts or
wake-up
perhaps
call.
books or
Suddenly,
blogs
he
on the
pounces and
ROTHSCHILD
lifts me into his
I know
arms while
a
I
lot of
shriek,
resources,
more from surprise
to
than
learn
alarm.
about this
Christian,
regarding European
put me
conquest and
down!
colonialism
I
that
squeal.
brought about conquest and
He
colonialism
chuckles.
that preceded
Only in the sea,
Harmony.
baby. Several sunbathers on the beach watch with that bemused disinterest so typical, I now realize, of the French as Christian carries me to the sea, laughing, and wades in. I clasp my arms around his neck. You wouldn't, I say breathlessly, trying to stifle my giggling. He grins. Oh, Anna, baby, have you learned nothing in the short time we've known each other? He kisses me, and I seize my opportunity, running my fingers through his hair, grasping 2 handfuls and kissing him back, while invading his mouth with my tongue. He inhales sharply and leans back, eyes smoky but wary. I know your game, he whispers, and slowly sinks into the cool, clear water, taking me with him as his lips find mine once more. The chill of the Mediterranean is soon forgotten as I wrap myself around my husband. I thought you wanted to swim, I murmur against his mouth. You're very distracting. Christian grazes his teeth along my lower lip. But I'm not sure I want the good people of Monte Carlo to see my wife in the throes of passion. I run my teeth along his jaw, stubble tickly against my tongue, not caring a dime for the good people of Monte Carlo. Anna, he groans. He wraps my ponytail around his wrist and tugs gently, tilting my head back, exposing my throat. He trails kisses from my ear down my neck.
Are you
Shall I
fucking
take you in
serious?
the sea? He breathes. Yes, I whisper. Christian pulls away and gazes down at me, his eyes warm, wanting, and amused. Mrs. Gray, you're insatiable and so brazen. What sort of monster have I created? A monster fit for you. Would you have me any other way? I'll take you any way I can get you. You know that. But not right now. Not with an audience. He jerks his head toward the shore. What? Sure enough, several sunbathers on the beach have abandoned their indifference and now regard us with interest. Suddenly, Christian grabs me around my waist and launches me into the air, letting me fall into the water and sink beneath the waves to the soft sand below. I surface, coughing, spluttering, and giggling. Christian! I scold, glaring at him. I thought we were going to make love in the sea and chalk up yet another first. He bites his lower lip to stifle his amusement. I splash him, and he splashes me right back. We have all night, he says, grinning like a fool. Laters, baby. He dives beneath the sea and surfaces 3 feet away from me. Then, in a fluid, graceful crawl, swims away from the shore, away from me. Ah! Playful, tantalizing 50. I shield my eyes from the sun as I watch him go. He's such a tease. What can I do to get him back? While I swim back to the shore, I contemplate my options. At the Sun Loungers, our drinks have arrived, and I take a quick sip of Diet Coke. Christian is a faint speck in the distance. I lie down on my front and, fumbling with the straps, take my bikini top off and toss it casually onto Christian's Sun Lounger. There. See how brazen I can be, Mr. Gray? Put this in your pipe and smoke it. I shut my eyes and let the sun warm my skin, warm my bones, and I drift away under its heat, my thoughts turning to my wedding day. You may kiss the bride, Reverend Walsh announces. I beam at my husband. Finally, you're mine, he whispers, and pulls me into his arms and kisses me chastely on the lips. I am married. I am Mrs. Christian Gray. I am giddy with joy. You look beautiful, Netta, he murmurs and smiles, his eyes glowing with love, and something darker, something hot. Don't let anyone take that dress off but me, understand? His smile heats 100 degrees as his fingertips trail down my cheek, igniting my blood. Holy crap! How does he do this? Even here with all these people staring at us. I nod mutely. Geez, I hope no one can hear us. Luckily, Reverend Walsh has discreetly stepped back. I glance at the throng, gathered in their wedding finery. My mom, Ray, Bob, and the Grays are all applauding. Even Kate, my maid of honor, who looks stunning in pale pink as she stands beside Christian's best man, his brother, Elliot. Who knew that even Elliot could scrub up so well? All wear huge, beaming smiles, except Grace, who weeps graciously into a dainty white handkerchief. Ready to party, Mrs. Gray? Christian murmurs, giving me his shy smile. I melt. He looks divine in a simple black tux with silver waistcoat and tie. He's so dashing. Ready as I'll ever be, I grin, a totally goofy smile on my face. Later, the wedding party is in full swing. Carrick and Grace have gone to town. They have the tent set up again and beautifully decorated in pale pink, silver, and ivory, with its sides open, facing the bay. We have been blessed with fine weather, and the late afternoon sun shines over the water. There's a dance floor at one end of the tent, a lavish buffet at the other. Ray and my mother are dancing and laughing with each other. I feel bittersweet watching them together. I hope Christian and I last longer. I don't know what I'd do if he left me. Marry in haste, repent at leisure. The saying haunts me.
Who is there? Who actually
Kate is beside me, looking so beautiful in her long silk gown. She glances at me and frowns. Hey, this is supposed to be the happiest day of your life, she scolds. It is, I whisper. Oh, Anna, what's wrong? Are you watching your mom and Ray? I nod sadly. They're happy. Happier apart. You're having doubts? Kate asks, alarmed. No, not at all. It's just, I love him so much. I freeze, unable or unwilling to articulate my fears. Anna, it's obvious he adores you. I know you had an unconventional start to your relationship, but I can see how happy you've both been over the past month. She grasps my hands, squeezing them. Besides, it's too late now, she adds with a grin.
have been
I
written
giggle.
about by the British
Trust
Empire.
Kate
So
to point out the
it's
obvious.
very interesting.
She pulls me into a Catherine Kavanaugh special hug.
People who do have,
Anna, you'll be
cultural
fine.
connection to
And if he hurts
history,
one
so,
hair on your head, he'll have me to
certainly,
answer to.
improve
Releasing
our
me,
history,
she grins at
so
whoever is
giving it
behind me.
a lot more depth
Hi,
and,
baby. Christian puts his arms around me, surprising me, and kisses my temple. Kate, he acknowledges. He is still cool toward her even after 6 weeks. Hello again, Christian. I'm off to find your best man, who happens to be my best man, too. With a smile to us both, she heads over to Elliot, who is drinking with her brother Ethan and our friend Jose. Time to go, Christian murmurs. Already? This is the first party I've been to where I don't mind being the center of attention. I turn in his arms to face him. You deserve to be. You look stunning, Anastasia. So do you. He smiles, his expression heating. This beautiful dress becomes you. This old thing? I blush shyly and pull on the fine lace trim of the simple fitted wedding dress designed for me by Kate's mother. I love that the lace is just off the shoulder, demure yet alluring, I hope. He bends and kisses me. Let's go. I don't want to share you with all these people anymore. Can we leave our own wedding? Baby, it's our party, and we can do whatever we want. We've cut the cake, and right now, I'd like to whisk you away and have you all to myself. I giggle. You have me for a lifetime, Mr. Gray. I'm very glad to hear that, Mrs. Gray. Oh, there you two are. Such lovebirds. I groan inwardly. Grace's mother has found us. Christian, darling, one more dance with your grandma. Christian purses his lips. Of course, grandmother. And you, beautiful Anastasia, go and make an old man happy. Dance with Theo. Theo, Mrs. Trevelyan? Grandpa Trevelyan. And I think you can call me Grandma. Now, you two seriously need to get working on my great-grandkids. I won't last too much longer. She gives us both a simpering smile. Christian blinks at her in horror. Come, grandmother, he says, hurriedly taking her hand and leading her to the dance floor. He glances back at me, practically pouting, and rolls his eyes. Laters, baby. As I walk toward Grandpa Trevelyan, Jose accosts me. I won't ask you for another dance. I think I monopolize too much of your time on the dance floor as it is. I'm happy to see you happy. But I'm serious, Anna. I'll be here if you need me. Jose, thank you. You're a good friend. I mean it. His dark eyes shine with sincerity. I know you do. Thank you, Jose. Now, if you'll please excuse me, I have a date with an old man. He furrows his brow in confusion. Christian's grandfather, I clarify. He grins. Good luck with that, Annie. Good luck with everything. Thanks, Jose. After my dance with Christian's ever-charming grandfather, I stand by the French doors, watching the sun sink slowly over Seattle, casting bright orange and aquamarine shadows across the bay. Let's go, Christian urges. I have to change. I grasp his hand, meaning to pull him through the French windows and upstairs with me. He frowns, not understanding, and tugs gently on my hand, halting me. I thought you wanted to be the one to take this dress off, I explain. His eyes light up. Correct. He gives me a lascivious grin. But I'm not undressing you here. We wouldn't leave until... I don't know. He waves his long-fingered hand, leaving his sentence unfinished, but his meaning quite clear. I flush and let go of his hand. And don't take your hair down either, he murmurs darkly. But no buts,
Just stay in the fucking way. This is against my fucking...
And I want to be the one to undress
Fourth
you.
Amendment, it's against my Fifth Amendment.
I frown.
Talk to your fucking ass.
Pack your going-away clothes. He orders. You'll need them. Taylor has your main suitcase.
Take your fucking onion
Okay.
and get the fuck out
What
of
has he
fucking
got
way.
planned? He hasn't told me where we're going. In fact, I don't think anyone knows where we're going. Neither Mia nor Kate has managed to inveigle the information out of him. I turn to where my mother and Kate are hovering nearby. I'm not changing. What? My mother says. Christian doesn't want me to. I shrug as if this should explain everything. Her brow furrows briefly. You didn't promise to obey. She reminds me tactfully. Kate tries to disguise her snort as a cough. I narrow my eyes at her. Neither she nor my mother have any idea of the fight Christian and I had about that. I don't want to rehash that argument. Geez, am I 50 Shades salt and have nightmares? The memory is sobering. I know, Mom, but he likes the stress, and I want to please him. Her expression softens. Kate rolls her eyes and tactfully moves away to leave us alone. You look so lovely, darling. Carla gently tugs at a loose tendril of my hair and strokes my chin. I am so proud of you, honey. You're going to make Christian a very happy man. She pulls me into a hug. Oh, Mom. I can't believe how grown up you look right now. Beginning a new life. Just remember that men are from a different planet, and you'll be fine. I giggle. Christian is from a different universe. If only she knew. Thanks, Mom. Ray joins us, smiling sweetly at both Mom and me. You made a beautiful baby girl, Carla, he says, his eyes glowing with pride. He looks so dapper in his black tux and pale pink waistcoat. Tears prick the back of my eyes. Oh no. So far I have managed not to cry. And you watched her and helped her grow up, right? Carla's voice is wistful. And I loved every single minute. You make one hell of a bride, Annie. Ray tucks the same loose strand of hair behind my ear. Oh, Dad. I stifle a sob, and he hugs me in his brief, awkward way. You'll make one hell of a wife, too. He whispers, his voice hoarse. When he releases me, Christian is back at my side. Ray shakes his hand warmly. Look after my girl, Christian. I fully intend to, Ray. Carla. He nods at my stepdad and kisses my mom. The rest of the wedding guests have formed a long human arch for us to travel through, leading around to the front of the house. Ready, Christian says. Yes. Taking my hand, he leads me under their outstretched arms, while our guests shout good luck and congratulations and shower us with rice. Waiting with smiles and hugs at the end of the arch are Grace and Carrick. They hug and kiss us both in turn. Grace is emotional again, as we bid them hasty goodbyes. Taylor is waiting to whisk us away in the Audi SUV. As Christian holds the car door open for me, I turn and toss my bouquet of white and pink roses into the crowd of young women that has gathered. Mia triumphantly holds it aloft, grinning from ear to ear. As I slide into the SUV, laughing at Mia's audacious catch, Christian bends to gather the hem of my dress. Once I'm safely in, he bids the waiting crowd farewell. Taylor holds the car door open for him. Congratulations, sir. Thank you, Taylor. Christian replies as he seats himself beside me. As Taylor pulls away, our wedding guests shower the vehicle with rice. Christian grasps my hand and kisses my knuckles. So far, so good, Mrs. Gray.
Oh,
So
God,
far, so wonderful, Mr. Gray. Where are we going? Z-Tech. He says simply, and smiles a sphinx-like smile. What is he planning? Taylor does not head for the departure terminal as I expect, but through a security gate and directly onto the tarmac. What? And then I see her. Christian's jet. Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. In large blue lettering across her fuselage. Don't tell me you're misusing company property again. Oh, I hope so, Anastasia. Christian grins. Taylor halts the Audi at the foot of the steps leading up to the plane and leads Sat to open Christian's door. They have a brief discussion. Then Christian opens my door, and rather than stepping back to give me room to climb out, he leans in and lifts me. Whoa! What are you doing? I squeak. Carrying you over the threshold, he says. Oh, isn't that supposed to be at home? He carries me effortlessly up the steps, and Taylor follows with my small suitcase. He leaves it on the threshold of the plane before returning to the Audi. Inside the cabin, I recognize Stefan, Christian's pilot, in his uniform. Welcome aboard, sir. Mrs. Gray. He grins. Christian puts me down and shakes Stefan's hand. Beside Stefan stands a dark-haired woman in her, early 30s? She's also in uniform. Congratulations to you both. Stefan continues. Thank you, Stefan. Anastasia, you know Stefan. He's our captain today, and this is First Officer Bailey. She blushes as Christian introduces her and blinks rapidly. I want to roll my eyes. Another female completely captivated by my too handsome for his own good husband. Delighted to meet you, gushes Bailey. I smile kindly at her. After all, he is mine. All preparations complete? Christian asks them both as I glance around the cabin. The interior is all pale maple wood and pale cream leather. It's lovely. Another young woman in uniform stands at the other end of the cabin. A very pretty brunette. We have the all clear. Weather is good from here to Boston.
There's nothing.
Boston? Turbulence? Not before Boston. There's a weather front over Shannon that might give us a rough ride. Shannon? Ireland?
Nobody talks to them and be like, hey, dude,
I see.
Everybody else is
Well,
getting on
I hope to sleep through it all, says Christian, matter-of-factly.
And you motherfuckers just are like, oh, yeah, do
We'll
your
get
own
underway,
fucking
sir,
thing.
Stefan says. We'll leave you in the capable care of Natalia, your flight attendant. Christian glances in her direction and frowns, returns to Stefan with a smile. Excellent, he says. Taking my hand, he leads me to one of the sumptuous leather seats. There must be about 12 of them in total.
No, this is like one bully going to another bully.
He says as he removes his jacket and undoes his fine silver brocade vest. We sit in two single seats facing each other, with a small, highly polished table between us. Welcome aboard, sir, ma'am. And congratulations. Natalia is at our side, offering us both a glass of pink champagne. Thank you, Christian says, and she smiles politely at us and retreats to the galley. Here's to a happy married life, Anastasia. Christian raises his glass to mine, and we clink. The champagne is delicious. Bollinger? I ask. The same. The first time I drank this, it was out of teacups. I grin. I remember that day well. Your graduation. Where are we going? I'm unable to contain my curiosity any longer. Shannon, Christian says, his eyes alight with excitement. He looks like a small boy. In Ireland? We're going to Ireland? To refuel, he adds, teasing. Then, I prompt. His grin broadens and he shakes his head. Christian? London, he says, gazing intently at me, trying to gauge my reaction. I gasp. Holy cow. I thought maybe we'd be going to New York or Aspen or maybe the Caribbean. I can hardly believe it. My lifetime ambition has been to visit England. I'm lit up from within, incandescent with happiness. Then Paris. What? Then the south of France. Whoa! I know you've always dreamed of going to Europe, he says softly. I want to make your dreams come true, Anastasia. You are my dreams come true, Christian. Back at you, Mrs. Gray. He whispers.
They should just take
Oh
100
my.
fucking people in Israel
Buckle
of
up.
every age.
I grin
Age group.
and
But, like,
do as I'm
students
told.
submit that.
As the
It'd be
plane
very funny.
taxis out onto the runway,
Like,
we
90-year-old
sip our
people,
champagne, grinning inanely at each
little
other.
kids, and have them all
I can't believe it.
I don't
At
know.
22 years old, I'm finally leaving the United States and going to Europe,
I'm like, tiny.
to London of all
Also, like,
places.
40.
Once we're airborne,
Okay.
Natalia serves us yet more champagne and prepares our wedding feast. And what a feast it is! Smoked salmon, followed by roast partridge with a green bean salad and dauphinoise potatoes, all cooked and served by the ever-efficient Natalia. Dessert, Mr. Gray? She asks. He shakes his head and runs his finger across his bottom lip as he looks questioningly at me, his expression dark and unreadable. No, thank you, I murmur, unable to break eye contact with him. His lips curl up in a small, secret smile, and Natalia retreats. Good, he murmurs. I'd rather plan on having you for dessert. Oh, here?
And I'm not fat.
Oh, he says, rising from the table and offering me his hand. He leads me to the back of the cabin. There's a bathroom here. He points to a small door, then leads me on down a short corridor and through a door at the end. Jeez, a bedroom. The cabin is cream and maple wood, and the small double bed is covered in gold and taupe cushions. It looks very comfortable. Christian turns and pulls me into his arms, gazing down at me. I thought we'd spend our wedding night at 35,000 feet. It's something I've never done before. Another first. I gape at him, my heart pounding. The Mile High Club. I've heard about this. But first I have to get you out of this fabulous dress. His eyes glow with love and something darker. Something I love. Something that calls to my inner goddess. He takes my breath away. Turn around. His voice is low, authoritative, and sexy as hell. How can he infuse so much promise into those two words? Willingly I comply, and his hands move to my hair. Gently he pulls out each hairpin one at a time, his expert fingers making short work of the task. My hair falls in swathes over my shoulders, one lock at a time, covering my back and down to my breasts. I try to stand still and not squirm, but I'm aching for his touch. After our long, tiring, but exciting day, I want him, all of him. You have such beautiful hair, Anna. His mouth is close to my ear and I feel his breath, though his lips don't touch me. When my hair is free of pins, he runs his fingers through it, gently massaging my scalp. Oh my. I close my eyes and savor the sensation. His fingers travel on down, and he tugs, tilting my head back to expose my throat. You're mine. He breathes, and his teeth tug my earlobe. I groan. Hush now, he admonishes. He sweeps my hair over my shoulder and trails a finger across the top of my back, from shoulder to shoulder, following the lace edge of my dress. I shiver in anticipation. He plants a tender kiss on my back above the first button on my dress. So beautiful, he says as he deftly undoes the first button. You have made me the happiest man alive today. With infinite slowness, he unfastens each button, all the way down my back. I love you so much. Trailing kisses from the nape of my neck to the edge of my shoulder. Between each kiss, he murmurs, I want you so much. I want to be inside.
In a display of how profound religion can be, a group of Jews escaped.
Each word is intoxicating. I close my eyes and tilt my head, giving him easier access to my neck. And I fall further under the spell that is Christian Grey, my husband. Mine, he whispers once more. He peels my dress down my arms so that it pools at my feet in a cloud of ivory silk and lace. Turn around, he whispers, his voice suddenly hoarse. I do so, and he gasps. I'm dressed in a tight, blush pink satin corset with garter straps, matching lacy briefs, and white silk stockings. Christian's eyes travel greedily down my body, but he says nothing. He just gazes at me, his eyes wide with wonder. You like? I whisper, aware of the shy blush creeping across my cheeks. More than like, baby. You look sensational. Here. He holds out his hand and, taking it, I step out of my dress. Keep still, he murmurs. And without taking his darkening eyes off mine, he runs his middle finger over my breasts, following the line of my corset. My breath shallows, and he repeats the journey over my breasts once more, his tantalizing fingers sending tingles down my spine. He stops and twirls his index finger in the air, indicating that he wants me to turn around. For him, right now, I'd do anything. Stop, he says. I'm facing the bed, away from him. His arm encircles my waist, pulling me against him, and he nuzzles my neck. Gently, he cups my breasts, toying with them, while his thumbs circle over my nipples so that they strain against the fabric of my corset. Mine, he whispers. Yours, I breathe. Leaving my breasts bereft, he runs his hands down my stomach, over my belly, down to my thighs, his thumbs skimming my sex. I stop moan. His fingers skate down each garter, and with his usual dexterity, he simultaneously unhooks each one from my stockings. His hands travel around to my behind. He breathes, as his hands spread across my backside, the tips of his fingers brushing my sex. Ah! His hands travel down the backs of my thighs, and once more he unclips my garters. Leaning down, he pulls back the cover on the bed. Sit down. In his thrall, I do as I'm told, and he kneels at my feet and gently tugs off each of my white bridal Jimmy Choos. He grasps the top of my left stocking and slowly peels it off, running his thumbs down my leg. He repeats the process with my other stocking. This is like unwrapping my Christmas presents. He smiles up at me through his long, dark lashes. A present you've had already. He frowns in admonishment. Oh no, baby. This time, it's really mine. Christian, I've been yours since I said yes. I scoot forward, cupping his beloved face in my hands. I'm yours. I will always be yours, husband of mine. Now, I think you're wearing too many clothes. I bend to kiss him, and suddenly he leans up, kisses my lips, and grasps my head with his hands, his fingers threading into my hair. Anna, he breathes. My Anna. His lips claim mine once more, his tongue invasively persuasive. Clothes, I whisper, our breath mingling as I push back his vest and he struggles out of it, releasing me for a moment. He pauses, gazing at me, eyes wide, eyes wanting. Let me, please. My voice is soft and cajoling. I want to undress my husband, my 50. He sits back on his heels, and leaning forward, I grasp his tie, his silver gray tie, my favorite tie, and slowly undo it and pull it free. He raises his chin to let me tackle the top button of his white shirt. Then, once it's undone, I move on to his cuffs. He's wearing platinum cufflinks, engraved with an entwined A and C, my wedding present to him. When I've removed them, he takes the cufflinks from me and fists them in his hand. Then, he kisses his fist and shoves them into his pants pocket. Mr. Gray, so romantic. For you, Mrs. Gray, hearts and flowers, always. I take his hand and, glancing up through my lashes, kiss his plain platinum wedding ring. He groans and closes his eyes. Anna,
always a
he
shadow of his
whispers,
former
and
self.
my name is a prayer. Reaching up to his second shirt button and mirroring him from earlier, I plant a soft kiss on his chest as I undo each of them and whisper between each kiss, "You make me so happy.
We're now experiencing more
love
and more pressure from
you."
the Germanic tribes living on
He
their
groans, and in one swift move, he clasps me around the waist and lifts me onto the bed, following me down on it. His lips find mine, his hands curling around my head, holding me, stilling me, as our tongues glory in each other. Abruptly, Christian kneels up, leaving me breathless and wanting more. "You are so beautiful. Why?" He runs his hands down my legs, then grasps my left
And then it
foot.
was like, oh, I got
"You
this
have
thing,
such
like,
lovely legs. I want to kiss every inch of them, starting here."
Then I always.
He presses his lips against my big toe and then grazes the pad with his teeth. Everything south of my waistline convulses. His tongue glides up my instep, and his teeth skin my heel and up to my ankle. He trails kisses up the inside of my calf. Soft, wet kisses. I wriggle beneath him. "Still, Mrs. Gray," he warns, and suddenly he flips me onto my stomach and continues his leisurely journey with his mouth up the backs of my legs, to my thighs, my behind, and then he stops. I groan. "Please, I want you naked," he murmurs, and slowly unhooks my corset, one hook at a time.
Yeah.
When it's flat on the bed beneath me, he runs his tongue up the length of my spine.
It was like,
"Christian,
I was one of my
please.
favorite times of my life.
What do you want, Mrs. Gray?"
And
His words are soft and close to my ear. He's almost lying on top of me. I can feel him hard against my behind. "You and I, you, my
How we know
love,"
saying is
I
the
love, he whispers, and before I know it, he's flipped me onto my back. He stands swiftly and in one efficient move dispenses with his pants and boxer briefs, so that he's gloriously naked and looming large and ready over me.
naked and lubed hard.
The small cabin is eclipsed by his dazzling beauty and his want and need of me. He leans down and peels off my panties,
And peels
then
off your
gazes at me.
Mine,
He mouths. "Please," I beg,
Oh, what
and he
in the
grins. A salacious,
Did this
wicked,
fucking thing shut
tempting,
off?
all 50 grin. He crawls back onto the bed
Are
and
you
trails
fucking
kisses
serious?
up my
What the
right
fuck is
leg
this
this
shit?
time, until he reaches the apex of my
What is
thighs.
this shit?
He pushes my legs wider apart. "Ah,
What the
wife
fuck?
of mine," he murmurs, and then his mouth is on me. I close my eyes and surrender to his oh-so-adroit tongue. My hands fist in his hair as my
What
hips
in the
swing
fuck?
and sway, slave to his rhythm, then buck off the small bed. He grabs my hips to still me, but doesn't stop the delicious torture. I'm close, so close. "Christian,"
Close to what?
I moan. "Not yet." He
Close to
breathes,
Howard Johnson?
and he moves up
We
my
put him
body,
over some
his
kids?
tongue dipping into my navel. "No! Damn!" I sense his smile against my belly as his journey continues north. "So patient, Mrs. Gray. We have until we touch down on the Emerald Isle." Reverentially, he kisses my breasts and tugs my left nipple between his lips. Gazing up at me, his eyes are dark like a tropical storm as he teases me. Oh my,
This is bullshit.
I'd forgotten.
Chinese themselves were also experiencing internal problems.
"Husband,
with
I
corruption
want
within
you.
the political
Please."
ranks.
He looms up over me, his body covering mine, resting his weight on his elbows. He runs his nose down mine, and I run my hands down his strong, supple back to his fine backside. "Mrs. Gray,
Although it was put
why?
down somewhat by
We
the
aim
hand
to
military,
please."
the rebellion did
His
not
lips brush.
completely disappear. The
"I
hand
love
were
you.
weakened somewhat by the
I love you
exchanges.
too." Eyes
The
open.
weakness of
I
Han
want to
China
see you.
was evident.
"Christian!"
Local warlords started taking
I
control
cry
of their own
as he
small
slowly
territories.
sinks into me.
So the empire was
"Anna,
clearly
oh,
fragmenting.
Anna." He breathes,
Emperor
and he
Shen
starts
of
to
Han
move.
had no influence coming under the control
"What the
of
hell
local
do you think you're
warlords,
doing?"
and particularly
Christian
the
shouts,
warlord
waking me from my very pleasant dream. He's standing
He's
all wet and beautiful at the end of my sun lounge and glaring down at me. What have I done? Oh no, I'm lying on my back. Crap, crap, crap. And he's mad. Shit, he's really mad.
Chinese chronicles report a political relationship between the
Chapter
state
2.
of Selfie and Queen.
I am suddenly very awake. My erotic dreams were
However,
brought.
it is hard to obtain
I was on my
clarity
front.
on this subject.
I must have turned over in my sleep. I
Appears
whisper
to be
weakly in my defense.
absolutely
His eyes blaze with fury. He reaches down, scoops up my bikini top from his sun lounger, and tosses it at me. Put this on, he hisses. Christian, no one is looking. Trust me, they're looking. I'm sure Taylor and the security crew are enjoying the show. He snarls. Holy shit, why do I keep forgetting about them? I grasp my breasts in panic, hiding them. Ever since Charlie Tango's sabotaged demise, we are constantly shadowed by damned security. Yes, Christian snarls. And some sleazy fucking paparazzi could get a shot of you too. Do you want to be all over the cover of Star magazine? Naked this time? Shit, the paparazzi? Fuck. As I hurriedly scramble into my top, all thumbs, the color drains from my face. I shudder. The unpleasant memory of being besieged by the paparazzi outside Seattle Independent Publishing after our engagement was leaked comes unwelcome to mind. All part of the Christian Grey package. L'audition! Christian snaps at the passing waitress. We're going, he says to me. Now? Yes, now. Oh shit. He's not to be argued with. He pulls on his shorts, even though his trunks are dripping wet, then his gray t-shirt. The waitress is back in a moment with his credit card and the check. Reluctantly, I wriggle into my turquoise sundress and step into my flip-flops. Once the waitress has left, Christian snatches up his book and BlackBerry and masks his fury behind mirrored aviator sunglasses. He is bristling with tension and anger. My heart sinks. Every other woman on the beach is topless. It's not that big of a crime. In fact, I look odd with my top on. I sigh inwardly, my spirits sinking. I thought Christian would see the funny side. Sort of. Maybe if I'd stayed on my front, but his sense of humor has evaporated. Please don't be mad at me, I whisper, taking his book and BlackBerry from him and placing them in my backpack. Too late for that, he says quietly. Too quietly. Come. Taking my hand, he signals up to Taylor and his two sidekicks, the French security officers Philippe and Gaston. Weirdly, they are identical twins. They have been patiently watching us and everyone else on the beach from the veranda. Why do I keep forgetting about them? How? Taylor is stony-faced behind his dark glasses. Shit, he's mad at me too. I'm still not used to seeing him so casually dressed in shorts and a black polo shirt. Christian leads me into the hotel, through the lobby, and out onto the street. He remains silent, brooding, and bad-tempered, and it's all my fault. Taylor and his team shadow us. Where are we going? I ask tentatively, gazing up at him. Back to the boat. He doesn't look at me. I have no idea of the time. I think it must be about 5 or 6 in the afternoon. When we reach the marina, Christian leads me onto the dock, where the motorboat and jet ski belonging to the fair lady are moored. As Christian unties the jet ski, I hand my backpack to Taylor. I glance nervously up at him, but like Christian, his expression gives nothing away. I flush, thinking about what he's seen on the beach. Here you go, Mrs. Gray. Taylor passes me a life vest from the motorboat, and I dutifully put it on. Why am I the only one who has to wear life jackets? Christian and Taylor exchange some kind of look. Geez, is he angry with Taylor too? Christian then checks the straps on my life jacket, cinching the middle one tightly. You'll do.
to the lands
He
of the
mutters
East,
sullenly,
such as the Indian
still not turning to
subcontinent,
look at
Hey,
me.
Indochina,
Shit.
and China.
He climbs gracefully onto the jet ski and holds out his hand for me to join him.
African
Grasping
power
it tightly, I manage to throw my leg over the seat behind him without falling into the water, while Taylor and the twins clamber into the motorboat. Christian kicks the jet ski away from the dock, and it floats gently into the marina. Hold on, he orders, and I put my arms around him. This is my favorite part of traveling by jet ski. I hug him closely, my nose nuzzling into his back, marveling that there was a time when he would not have tolerated me touching him this way. He smells good, of Christian and the sea. Give me Christian, please. He stiffens. Study, he says, his tone softer. I kiss his back and rest my cheek against him, looking back toward the dock where a few holidaymakers have gathered to watch the show. Christian turns the key, and the motor roars to life. With one twist of the accelerator, the jet ski bucks forward and speeds across the cool, dark water, through the marina, and out to the center of the harbor toward the fair lady. I hold him tighter. I love this. It's so exciting. Every muscle in Christian's lean frame is evident as I cling to him. Taylor pulls alongside the motorboat. Christian glances at him, then accelerates again, and we shoot forward, whipping over the top of the water like an expertly tossed pebble. Taylor shakes his head in resigned exasperation and heads straight to the yacht, while Christian shoots past the fair lady and heads out toward the open water. The sea spray is splashing us, the warm wind buffeting my face and flaying my ponytail crazily around me. This is so much fun. Maybe the thrill of this ride will dispel Christian's bad mood. I can't see his face, but I know he's enjoying himself, carefree, acting his age for a change. He steers in a huge semicircle, and I study the shoreline, the boats in the marina, the mosaic of yellow, white, and sand-colored offices and apartments, and the craggy mountains behind. It looks so disorganized, not the regimented blocks that I am used to, but so picturesque. Christian glances over his shoulder at me, and there's a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Again? He shouts over the noise of the engine. I nod enthusiastically. His answering grin is dazzling, and he opens the throttle and speeds around the fair lady and on out to sea once more. And I think I'm forgiven.
Reviews this week.
You've caught the sun, Christian says mildly as he undoes my life vest. I anxiously try to assess his mood. We are on deck aboard the yacht, and one of the stewards is standing quietly nearby, waiting for my life vest. Christian passes it to him. "Will that be all, sir?" the young man asks. I love his French accent. Christian glances at me, takes off his shades, and slips them into the collar of his t-shirt, letting them hang. "Would you like a drink?" he asks me. "Do I need one?" He cocks his head to one side. "Why would you say that?" His voice is soft. "You know why."
Very, very kind.
He frowns as if weighing something in his mind. Oh, what is he thinking? 2 gin and tonics, please, and some nuts and olives, he says to the steward, who nods and quickly vanishes. "You think I'm going to punish you?" Christian's voice is silky. "Do you want to?" "Yes."
Don't forget to
How?
write in and let me know what
I'll
bits
think
you'd
of
like to
something.
hear about, and
Maybe
which
when
bits
you've had your drink.
you'd like hearing about some
And
other.
it's a sensual threat.
What bits
I
maybe you're
swallow,
looking forward to
and my
about
inner
men
goddess
that you like
squints
so
from
much
her sun
to
lounger,
talk about
where she's
men.
trying to
So,
catch rays with a
looking
silver
forward to hearing
reflector
from you,
fanned out
reading
at her
your
neck.
messages. And,
Christian
next
frowns once
week
more.
we'll be
"You
rounding off
want to be?"
the volume and the
How
summary.
does
So
he know?
until then, thanks for listening.
"Depends," I mutter, flushing.
Come to the
On
History
what?
of the World podcast.
He hides his smile.
And join all
"If
the
you
other
want to hurt me or
worlders
not."
on our wide range
His
of
mouth
social
presses
media.
into a hard line.
Why not
Humor
support the
forgotten.
podcast by
He
clicking the
leans
Patreon
forward
link
and kisses my
or
forehead.
buying me a book,
"Anastasia,
becoming a lifelong
you're my
member
wife,
of the
not
History of the
my
World
sub.
podcast.
I don't ever want to hurt you."
drop me
You
a
should know
line
that by
at
now.
historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com.
Just don't take your clothes off in public. I don't want you naked all over the
See you
tabloids.
next time.
You don't want that, and I'm sure your mom and Ray don't want that either. Oh, Ray. Holy shit. He'd have a coronary. What was I thinking? I mentally castigate myself. The steward appears with our drinks and snacks and places them on the teak table. Sit, Christian commands. I do as he says and settle into a director's chair. Christian takes a seat beside me and passes me a gin and tonic. Cheers, Mrs. Gray. Cheers, Mr. Gray. I take a welcome sip. It's thirst-quenching, cold, and delicious. When I gaze at him, he's watching me carefully, his mood unreadable. It's very frustrating. I don't know if he's still mad at me. I deploy my patented distraction technique. Who owns this boat? I ask. A British knight. Served somebody or other. His great-grandfather started a grocery store. His daughter's married to one of the crown princes of Europe. Oh, super rich? Christian looks suddenly wary. Yes. Like you, I murmur. Yes. Oh. And like you. Christian whispers and pops an olive into his mouth. I blink rapidly. A vision of him in his tux and silver waistcoat comes to mind. His eyes burning with sincerity as he gazes down at me during our wedding ceremony. All that is mine is now yours, he says, his voice ringing out clearly, reciting his vows from memory. All mine? It's odd. Going from nothing to... I wave my hand to indicate our opulent surroundings. To everything. You'll get used to it. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. Taylor appears on deck. Sir, you have a call. Christian frowns but takes the proffered BlackBerry. Gray. He snaps and rises from his seat to stand at the bow of the yacht. I gaze out at the sea, tuning out his conversation with Roz, I think, his number 2. I am rich, stinking rich. I have done nothing to earn this money, just married a rich man. I shudder as my mind drifts back to our conversation about prenups. It was the Sunday after his birthday, and we were seated at the kitchen table enjoying our leisurely breakfast, all of us. Elliot, Kate, Grace, and I were debating the merits of bacon versus sausage, while Carrick and Christian read the Sunday paper. Look at this, squeals Mia, as she sets her netbook on the kitchen table in front of us. There's a gossipy item on the Seattle News website about you being engaged, Christian. Already? Grace says in surprise. Then her mouth purses as some obviously unpleasant thought crosses her mind. Christian frowns. Mia reads the column out loud. Word has reached us here at the News that Seattle's most eligible bachelor, the Christian Gray, has finally been snapped up and wedding bells are in the air. But who is the lucky lady? The News is on the hunt. Bet she's reading one hell of a prenup. Mia giggles, then stops abruptly as Christian glares at her. Silence descends, and the atmosphere in the gray kitchen plunges to below zero. Oh no! A prenup? The thought has never crossed my mind. I swallow, feeling all the blood drain from my face. Please, ground, swallow me up now. Christian shifts uncomfortably in his chair as I glance apprehensively at him. No, he mouths at me. Christian, Carrick says gently. I'm not discussing this again. He snaps at Carrick, who glances at me nervously and opens his mouth to say something. No prenup. Christian almost shouts at him and broodingly goes back to reading his paper, ignoring everyone else at the table. They look alternately at me and then him, then anywhere but at the two of us. Christian, I murmur. I'll sign anything you and Mr. Gray want. Geez, it wouldn't be the first time he's made me sign something. Christian looks up and glares at me. No, he snaps. I blanch once more. It's to protect you. Christian, Anna, I think you should discuss this in private. Grace admonishes us. She glares at Carrick and Mia. Oh dear, looks like they're in trouble too. Anna, this is not about you, Carrick murmurs reassuringly. And please, call me Carrick. Christian narrows cold eyes at his father and my heart sinks. Hell, he's really mad. Everyone erupts into animated conversation, and Mia and Kate leap up to clear the table. I definitely prefer sausage, exclaims Elliot. I stare down at my knotted fingers. Crap. I hope Mr. and Mrs. Gray don't think I'm some kind of gold digger. Christian reaches over and grasps both my hands gently in one of his. Stop it. How does he know what I'm thinking? Ignore my dad, Christian says, so only I can hear him. He's really pissed about Elena. That stuff was all aimed at me. I wish my mom had kept her mouth shut. I know Christian is still smarting from his talk with Carrick about Elena last night. He has a point, Christian. You're very wealthy, and I'm bringing nothing to our marriage but my student loans. Christian gazes at me, his eyes bleak. Anastasia, if you leave me, you might as well take everything. You left me once before. I know how that feels. Holy fuck. That was different, I whisper, moved by his intensity. But you might want to leave me. The thought makes me sick. He snorts and shakes his head with mock disgust. Christian, you know I might do something exceptionally stupid, and you... I glance down at my knotted hands, pain lancing through me, and I'm unable to finish my sentence. Losing Christian. Fuck. Stop. Stop now. The subject is closed, Anna. We're not discussing it anymore. No prenup. Not now. Not ever. He gives me a pointed, give it up now look, which silences me. Then he turns to Grace. Mom, he says, can we have the wedding here? And he's not mentioned it again. In fact, at every opportunity, he's tried to reassure me about his wealth, that it's mine too. I shudder as I recall the crazy shopping fest Christian demanded I go on with Caroline Acton, the personal shopper from Neiman Marcus, in preparation for this honeymoon. My bikini alone cost $540. I mean, it's nice, but really, that's a ridiculous amount of money for 4 triangular scraps of material. You will get used to it. Christian interrupts my reverie as he resumes his place at the table. Used to it? The money, he says, rolling his eyes. Oh, 50, maybe with time. I push the small dish of salted almonds and cashews toward him. You're nuts, sir, I say, with as straight a face as I can manage, trying to bring some humor to our conversation after my dark thoughts and my bikini top faux pas. He smirks. I'm nuts about you. He takes an almond, his eyes sparkling with wicked humor as he enjoys my little joke. He licks his lips. Drink up. We're going to bed. What? Drink, he mouths at me, his eyes darkening. Oh my. The look he gives me could be solely responsible for global warming. I pick up my gin and drain the glass, not taking my eyes off him. His mouth drops open, and I glimpse the tip of his tongue between his teeth. He smiles lewdly at me. In one fluid move, he stands and bends over me, resting his hands on the arms of my chair. I'm going to make an example of you.
Brief period of
Come,
reunification
don't
under the
pee.
Western Jin
He
dynasty.
whispers in my
It
ear.
was an unstable
I gasp.
reunification.
Don't pee? How rude. My subconscious looks up from her book. The Complete Works of Charles Dickens, Volume 1, with alarm. It's not what you think. Christian smirks, holding his hand out to me. Trust me. He looks so sexy and genial. How can I resist? Okay. I place my hand in his, because, quite simply, I'd trust him with my life. What has he got planned? My heart starts pounding in anticipation. He leads me across the deck and through the doors into the plush, beautifully appointed main salon, along a narrow corridor, through the dining room, and down the stairs to the main master cabin. The cabin has been cleaned since this morning and the bed made. It's a lovely room, with 2 portholes on both the starboard and port sides. It's elegantly decorated in dark walnut furniture with cream walls and soft furnishings in gold and red. Christian releases my hand, pulls his t-shirt over his head, and tosses it onto a chair. He steps out of his flip-flops and removes his shorts and trunks in one graceful move. Oh my, will I ever tire of looking at him naked? He is utterly gorgeous, and all mine. His skin glows. He's caught the sun too, and his hair is longer, flopping over his forehead. I am one lucky, lucky girl. He grasps my chin, pulling slightly so that I stop biting my lip, and runs his thumb along my lower lip. That's better. He turns and strides over to the impressive armoire that houses his clothes. He produces 2 pairs of metal handcuffs and an airline eye mask from the bottom drawer. Handcuffs? We've never used handcuffs. I glance quickly and nervously at the bed. Where the hell is he going to attach those? He turns and gazes steadily at me, his eyes dark and luminous. These can be quite painful. They can bite into the skin if you pull too hard. He holds up 1 pair. But I really want to use them on you now. Holy fuck. My mouth goes dry. Here. He stalks gracefully forward and hands me a set. Do you want to try them first? They feel solid, the metal cold. Vaguely, I hope I never have to wear a pair of these for real. Christian is watching me intently. Where are the keys? My voice wavers. He holds out his palm, revealing a small metallic key. This does both sets. In fact, all sets. How many sets does he have? I don't remember seeing any in the museum chest. He strokes my cheek with his index finger, trailing it down to my mouth. He leans in as if to kiss me. Do you want to play? He says, his voice low, and everything in my body heads south as desire unfurls deep in my belly. Yes, I breathe. He smiles. Good. He plants a feather-like kiss on my forehead. We're going to need a safe word. What? Stop won't be enough because you will probably say that, but you won't mean it. He runs his nose down mine, the only contact between us. My heart starts pounding. Shit! How can he do this with just words? This is not going to hurt. It will be intense. Very intense. Because I'm not going to let you move. Okay? Oh my! This sounds so hot. My breathing is too loud. I am panting already. Thank heavens I'm married to this man. Otherwise, this would be embarrassing. My eyes flick down to his arousal. Okay. My voice is barely audible. Choose a word, Anna. Oh, a safe word, he says softly. Popsicle, I say, panting. Popsicle, he says, amused. Yes. He grins as he leans back to gaze down at me. Interesting choice. Lift up your arms. I do, and Christian grasps the hem of my sundress, lifts it over my head, and tosses it on the floor. He holds out his hand, and I give him back the handcuffs. He places both sets on the bedside table, along with the blindfold, and yanks the quilt off the bed, letting it fall to the floor. Turn around. I turn, and he undoes my bikini top so that it falls to the floor. Tomorrow, I will staple this to you, he mutters, and tugs on my hair tie, freeing my hair. He gathers it into one hand and yanks gently, so I step back against him, against his chest, against his erection. I gasp as he pulls my head to one side and kisses my neck. You were very disobedient, he murmurs in my ear, sending delicious shivers through me. Yes, I whisper. What are we going to do about that? Learn to live with it, I breathe. His soft, languid kisses are driving me wild. He grins against my neck. Ah, Mrs. Gray, you are ever the optimist. He straightens. Taking my hair, he carefully parts it into 3 strands, braids it slowly, and then fastens my hair tie to the end. He tugs my braid gently and leans down to my ear. I'm going to teach you a lesson, he murmurs. Moving suddenly, he grabs me by the waist, sits down on the bed, and yanks me across his knee so that I feel his erection pressed against my belly. He smacks my backside once, hard. I yelp, then I'm on my back on the bed, and he's gazing down at me, his eyes molten gray. I'm going to combust. Do you know how beautiful you are? He trails his fingertips up my thighs so that I tingle everywhere. Without taking his eyes off me, he gets up from the bed and gathers both sets of handcuffs. He grasps my left leg and snaps one cuff around my ankle. Oh. Lifting my right leg, he repeats the process, so I have a pair of handcuffs attached to each ankle. I still have no idea where he's going to attach them. Sit up, he orders, and I comply immediately. Now hug your knees. I blink at him, then draw my legs up so they are bent in front of me and wrap my arms around them. He reaches down, lifts my chin, and plants a soft, wet kiss on my lips before slipping the blindfold over my eyes. I can see nothing. All I can hear is my rapid breathing and the sound of the water lapping against the sides of the yacht as she bobs gently on the sea. Oh my, I am so aroused. Already?
This represents the split of the Roman Empire into 2 separate entities.
What's the safe word, Anastasia?
Empire,
Popsicle. Good. Taking my left hand, he snaps a cuff around my wrist, then repeats the process with my right. My left hand is tied to my left ankle, my right hand to my right leg. I cannot straighten my legs. Holy fuck. Now, Christian breathes. I'm going to fuck you till you scream. What? And all the air leaves my body. He grasps both of my heels and tips me back so that I fall backward on the bed. I have no choice but to keep my legs bent. The cuffs tighten as I pull against them. He's right. They cut into me almost to the point of pain. This feels weird, being trussed up and helpless on a boat. He pulls my ankles apart, and I groan. He kisses my inner thigh, and I want to squirm beneath him, but I can't. I have no purchase to move my hips. My feet are suspended. I cannot move. You're going to have to absorb all the pleasure, Anastasia. No moving, he murmurs as he crawls up my body, kissing me along the edge of my bikini bottoms. He pulls the strings on each side, and the scraps of material fall away. I am now naked and at his mercy. He kisses my belly, nipping my navel with his teeth. Oh, I sigh. This is going to be tough. I had no idea. He traces soft kisses and little bites up to my breasts. Shh. He soothes.
Before the Vandals
You
had taken
are so
the lands
beautiful,
of North
Anna.
Africa, a very
I
influential
groan,
man
frustrated.
was a Western
Normally,
Roman
I'd be
citizen
grinding my
who claimed
hips,
the
responding to his touch with a rhythm of my own, but I cannot move. I moan, pulling on my restraints. The metal bites into my skin. Ah! I cry, but I really don't care. You drive me crazy, he whispers, so I am going. He doesn't stop. It's maddening. Oh, please. His erection pushes against me. And feel his triumphant smile against my skin. Shall I make you come this way? He murmurs against my nipple, causing it to harden some more. You know I can. He suckles me hard and I cry out, pleasure lancing from my chest directly to my groin. I pull helplessly on the cuffs, swamped by the sensation. Yes, I whimper. Oh, baby, that would be too easy. Oh, please. Shh. His teeth scrape my chin as he trails his lips to my mouth, and I gasp. He kisses me. His skilled tongue invades my mouth, tasting, exploring, dominating. But my tongue meets his challenge, writhing against his. He tastes of cool gin and Christian Grey, and he smells of the sea. He grasps my chin, holding my head in place. Still, I want you still, he whispers against my mouth. I want to see you. Oh no, Anna, you'll feel more this way. And agonizingly slowly, he flexes his hips and pushes part way into me. I would normally tilt my pelvis up to meet him, but I can't move. He withdraws. Ah, Christian, please. Again, he teases, his voice hoarse. Christian! He pushes fractionally into me again, then withdraws while kissing me, his fingers tugging at my nipple. It's pleasure overload. No! Do you want me, Anastasia? Yes, I beg. Tell me, he murmurs, his breathing harsh, and he teases me once more, in and out. I want you, I whimper. Please. I hear his soft sigh against my ear. And have me, you will, Anastasia. He rears up and slams into me. I scream, tilting my head back, pulling on the restraints as he hits my sweet spot, and I am all sensation, everywhere. A sweet, sweet agony, and I cannot move. He stills, then circles his hips, and the motion radiates deep inside me. Why do you defy me, Anna? Christian, stop! He circles deep inside me again, ignoring my plea, easing out slowly, and then slamming into me again. Tell me, why? He hisses, and I'm vaguely aware that it's through gritted teeth. I cry out in an incoherent wail. This is too much. Tell me. Christian! Anna, I need to know. He slams into me again, thrusting so deep, and I'm building. The feeling is so intense. It swamps me, spiraling out from deep within my belly, to each limb, to each biting metal restraint. I don't know, I cry out. Because I can. Because I love you. Please, Christian. He groans loudly and thrusts deep, again and again, over and over, and I am lost, trying to absorb the pleasure. It's mind-blowing, body-blowing. I long to straighten my legs, to control my imminent orgasm, but I can't. I'm helpless. I'm his, just his, to do with as he wills. Tears spring into my eyes. This is too intense. I can't stop him. I don't want to stop him. I want... Oh no! This is too... That's it, Christian growls. Feel it, baby. I detonate around him, again and again, round and round, screaming loudly as my orgasm rips me apart, scorching through me like a wildfire, consuming everything. I am wrung ragged, tears streaming down my face, my body left pulsing and shaking. And I'm aware that Christian kneels, still inside me, pulling me upright onto his lap. He clutches my head with one hand and my back with the other, and he comes violently inside me while my insides continue to tremble with aftershocks. It's draining. It's exhausting. It's hell. It's heaven. It's hedonism gone wild. Christian tears off the blindfold and kisses me. He kisses my eyes, my nose, my cheeks. He kisses away the tears, clutching my face between his hands. I love you, Mrs. Gray. He breathes. Even though you make me so mad, I feel so alive with you. I don't have the energy to open either my eyes or my mouth to respond. Very gently, he lays me back on the bed and eases out of me. I mouth some wordless protest. He climbs off the bed and undoes the handcuffs. When I'm free, he gently rubs my wrists and ankles, then lies down beside me again, pulling me into his arms. I stretch out my legs. Oh my, that feels good. I feel good. That was, without doubt, the most intense climax I have ever endured. A Christian Grey 50 Shades punishment fuck. I really must misbehave more often. A pressing need from my bladder wakes me. When I open my eyes, I'm disoriented. It's dark outside. Where am I? London? Paris? Oh, the boat. I feel her pitch and roll, and I hear the quiet hum of the engines. We are on the move. How odd. Christian is beside me, working on his laptop, casually dressed in a white linen shirt and chino trousers, his feet bare. His hair is still wet, and I can smell his body wash fresh from the shower, and his Christian smell. Hi, he murmurs, gazing down at me, his eyes warm. Hi, I smile, feeling suddenly shy. How long have I been asleep? Just an hour or so. We're moving? I figured since we ate out last night and went to the ballet and the casino that we'd dine on board tonight. A quiet night, adieu. I grin at him. Where are we going? Cannes. Okay. I stretch, feeling stiff. No amount of training with Claude could have prepared me for this afternoon. I rise gingerly, needing the bathroom. Grabbing my silk robe, I hastily put it on. Why am I so shy? I feel Christian's eyes on me. When I glance at him, he returns to his laptop, his brow furrowed. As I absent-mindedly wash my hands at the vanity unit, recalling last night at the casino, my robe falls open. I stare at myself in the mirror, shocked. Holy fuck! What has he done to me? Chapter 3. I gaze in horror at the red marks all over my breasts. Hickeys! I have hickeys. I am married to one of the most respected businessmen in the United States, and he's given me goddamn hickeys. How did I not feel him doing this to me? I flush. The fact is, I know exactly why. Mr. Orgasmic was using his fine motor sexing skills on me. My subconscious peers over her half-moon specs and tuts disapprovingly, while my inner goddess slumbers on her chaise longue, out for the count. I gape at my reflection. My wrists have red welts around them from the handcuffs. No doubt they'll bruise. I examine my ankles. More welts. Holy hell. I look like I've been in some sort of accident. I gaze at myself, trying to absorb how I look. My body is so different these days. It's changed subtly since I've known him. I've become leaner and fitter, and my hair is messy and well cut. My nails are manicured, my feet pedicured, my eyebrows threaded and beautifully shaped. For the first time in my life, I'm groomed, except for these hideous love seats. I don't want to think about grooming at the moment. I'm too mad. How dare he mark me like this, like some teenager? In the short time we've been together, he's never given me hickeys. I look like hell. I know why he's done this. Damn control freak. Right. My subconscious folds her arms beneath her small bosom. He's gone too far this time. I stalk out of the ensuite bathroom and into the walk-in closet, carefully avoiding even a glance in his direction. Slipping out of my robe, I pull on my sweatpants and a camisole. I undo the braid, pick up a hairbrush from the small vanity unit, and brush out my tangles. Anastasia? Christian calls, and I hear his anxiety. Are you okay? I ignore him. Am I okay? No, I am not okay. After what he's done to me, I doubt I'll be able to wear a swimsuit, let alone one of my ridiculously expensive bikinis, for the rest of our honeymoon. The thought is suddenly so infuriating. How dare he? I'll give him "Are you okay?" I seethe as fury spikes through me. I can behave like an adolescent too. Stepping back into the bedroom, I hurl the hairbrush at him, turn, and leave. Though not before I see his shocked expression and his lightning reaction as he raises his arm to protect his head, so that the brush bounces ineffectively off his forearm and onto the bed. I storm out of our cabin, bolt upstairs and out on deck, fleeing toward the bow. I need some space to calm down. It's dark and the air is balmy. The warm breeze carries the smell of the Mediterranean and the scent of jasmine and bougainvillea from the shore. The fair lady glides effortlessly through the calm, cobalt sea as I rest my elbows on the wooden railing, gazing at the distant shore where tiny lights wink and twinkle. I take a deep, healing breath and slowly begin to calm. I'm aware of him behind me before I hear him. You're mad at me, he whispers. No shit, Sherlock. How mad? Scale of 1 to 10? I think I'm at 50. Act, huh? That mad? He sounds surprised and impressed at once. Yes, pushed to violence mad, I say through gritted teeth. He stays silent as I turn and scowl at him, watching me with wide and wary eyes. I know from his expression, and because he's made no move to touch me, that he's out of his depth. Christian, you have to stop unilaterally trying to bring me to heel. You made your point on the beach, very effectively as I recall. He shrugs minutely. Well, you won't take your top off again, he murmurs petulantly. And this justifies what he's done to me? I glare at him. I don't like you leaving marks on me. Well, not this many anyway. It's a hard limit. I hiss at him. I don't like you taking your clothes off in public. That's a hard limit for me, he growls. I think we've established that. I hiss through my teeth. Look at me. I pull down my camisole to reveal the top of my breasts. Christian gazes at me, his eyes not leaving my face, his expression wary and uncertain. He's not used to seeing me this mad. Can't he see what he's done? Can't he see how ridiculous he is? I want to shout at him, but I refrain. I don't want to push him too far. Heaven knows what he'd do. Eventually, his eyes pause a resigned, conciliatory gesture. Okay, he says, his voice placating. I get it. Hallelujah. Good. He runs his hand through his hair. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at me. Finally, he looks contrite, using my own words back at me. You are such an adolescent sometimes. I scold him mulishly, but the fight has gone out of my voice, and he knows it. He steps closer and tentatively raises his hand to tuck my hair behind my ear. I know. He acknowledges softly. I have a lot to learn. Dr. Flynn's words come back to me. Emotionally, Christian is an adolescent, Anna. He bypassed that phase in his life totally. He's channeled all his energies into succeeding in the business world, and he has, beyond all expectations. His emotional world has to play catch-up. My heart thaws a little. We both do. I sigh and cautiously raise my hand, placing it over his heart. He doesn't flinch like he used to, but he stiffens. He rests his hand over mine and smiles his shy smile. I've just learned that you've a good arm and a good aim, Mrs. Gray. I would never have figured that, but then I constantly underestimate you. You always surprise me. I arch my eyebrow at him. Target practice with Ray. I can throw and shoot straight, Mr. Gray, and you'd do well to remember that. I will endeavor to do that, Mrs. Gray, or ensure that all potential projectile objects are nailed down and that you don't have access to a gun. He smirks. I smirk back, narrowing my eyes. I'm resourceful. That you are, he whispers, and releases my hand to circle his arms around me. Pulling me into an embrace, he buries his nose in my hair. I wrap my arms around him, holding him close, and feel the tension leave his body as he nuzzles me. Am I forgiven? Am I? I feel his smile. Yes, he answers. Ditto. We stand holding each other, my peak forgotten. He does smell good, adolescent or not. How can I resist him? Hungry? He says after a while. I have my eyes closed and my head against his chest. Yes. Famished. All the, activity has given me an appetite. But I'm not dressed for dinner. I'm sure my sweatpants and camisole would be frowned upon in the dining room. You look good to me, Anastasia. Besides, it's our boat for the week. We can dress how we like. Think of it as dress down Tuesday on the Côte d'Azur. Anyway, I thought we'd eat on deck. Yes, I'd like that. He kisses me, an earnest forgive me kiss. Then we wander hand in hand toward the bow, where our gazpacho awaits. The steward serves our creme brulee and discreetly retires. Why do you always braid my hair? I ask Christian out of curiosity. We're sitting adjacent to each other at the table, my lower leg curled around his. He pauses as he's about to pick up his dessert spoon and frowns. I don't want your hair catching in anything, he says quietly, and for a moment he's lost in thought. Habit, I think. He muses. Suddenly he frowns and his eyes widen, his pupils dilating with alarm. What's he remembered? It's something painful, some early childhood memory, I guess. I don't want to remind him of that. Leaning over, I put my index finger over his lips. No, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know. I was just curious. I give him a warm, reassuring smile. His look is wary, but after a moment, he visibly relaxes, his relief evident. I lean over to kiss the corner of his mouth. I love you, I murmur, and he smiles his heart-achingly shy smile, and I melt. I will always love you, Christian. And I you, he says softly. In spite of my disobedience, I raise my eyebrow. Because of your disobedience, Anastasia. He grins. I crack my spoon through the burned sugar crust of my dessert and shake my head. Will I ever understand this man?
The first major one being
This creme brulee is delicious.
Turkic peoples would come to dominate.
Once the steward has cleared our dessert plates, Christian reaches for the bottle of rosé and refills my glass. I check that we're alone and ask, "What's with the no going to the bathroom thing?" You really want to know? He half smiles, his eyes alight with a salacious gleam. Do I? I gaze at him through my lashes as I take a sip of my wine. The fuller your bladder, the more intense your orgasm, Anna. I blush. Oh, I see. Holy cow, that explains a lot. He grins, looking far too knowing. Will I always be on the back foot with Mr. Sexpertise?
79 episodes.
Yes, well,
We did it.
I desperately hunt around for a change of subject.
Classical world period.
He takes pity on me.
Thank you so much.
What do you want to do for the rest of the evening?
Thank you so
He
much.
cocks his head to one side and gives me his lopsided grin.
Mainly from episode
Whatever
1
you want,
all the way
Christian.
through to episode
Put your theory to the
79.
test again?
You've done really well.
I shrug.
I dare say.
I know what
you've
I want
enhanced
to
your
do.
understanding of
He
this
murmurs,
period in history.
grabbing his glass of wine.
Was
He
it
rises and
a
holds
great
his
journey
hand out to
all
me.
around the world
Come.
through the ages?
I take his hand and he leads
So
me
let's
into the
read
main
out some
salon.
listener messages.
His iPod is in the
Let's,
speaker dock
do
on the
what we like
dresser.
to do each
He
week.
switches it on and selects a song.
Acknowledge those
Dance
people
with
who've
me.
been kind enough to take
He
the time
pulls
to
me
write
into
in.
his arms. If
First
you
one,
insist.
hi Chris, my name
I
is
insist,
Brandon.
Mrs. Gray.
Before a long drive a few
A
weeks ago,
slinky,
I looked at
cheesy
podcasts
melody
on
starts.
Spotify to see
Is
if I
this
could
a
learn
Latin
about the history
rhythm?
of the world,
Christian
particularly
grins down
in
at me and
terms of
starts to
evolution,
move,
migration.
sweeping me off my
I
feet
stumbled
and
across
taking
your
me with him
podcast
around the
and I've
salon.
been listening to it
A
ever
man with a
since.
voice like
I've been
warm
listening
melted
to
caramel
almost an episode
croons.
a day
It's a
while
song I
walking
know
my dog.
but can't
I just
place.
finished episode
Christian dips
17.
me low and
I
I
have
yelp
found
in
it very
surprise
interesting,
and giggle.
except for all the
He
various
smiles,
names,
his eyes
species,
filled with
places,
humor.
etc.
Then he
And
scoops
I
me
really
up and
like your
spins
accent
me
and
under
how
his
you
arm.
explain it all. Thank
You
so much
dance
for taking
so
your
well,
passion and putting
I
it out
say.
there for myself
It's
and
like
others
I
to
can
learn.
dance.
I cannot wait to get
He gives me a sphinx-like smile but says
Also,
nothing. And I wonder if it's because he's thinking of her, Mrs. Robinson, the woman who taught him how to dance and how to fuck. She hasn't crossed my mind for a while. Christian has not mentioned her since his birthday, and as far as I'm aware, their business relationship is over. Reluctantly, though, I have to admit, she was some teacher. He dips me low again and plants a swift kiss on my lips. I'd miss your love, I murmur, echoing the lyrics. I'd more than miss your love, he says, and spins me once more. Then he sings the words softly in my ear, making me swoon. The track ends and Christian gazes down at me, his eyes dark and luminous, all humor gone, and I'm suddenly breathless. Come to bed with me, he whispers, and it's a heartfelt plea that tugs at my heart. Christian, you had me at I do 2.5 weeks ago, but I know this is his way of apologizing and making sure all is well between us after our spat.
Another very interesting message from Clay West Clay.
When I wake, the sun is shining through the portholes and the water reflects shimmering patterns onto the cabin ceiling. Christian is nowhere to be seen. I stretch out and smile.
I live in Kentucky.
I'll take a punishment fuck followed by makeup sex any day. I marvel at what it is to go to bed with two different men, angry Christian and sweet, let me make it up to you in any way I can, Christian. It's tricky to decide which of them I like best. I rise and head for the bathroom. Opening the door, I find Christian inside shaving, naked except for a towel wrapped around his waist. He turns and beams, not fazed that I am interrupting him. I have discovered that Christian will never lock the door if he is the only person in the room. The reason is sobering and not one I want to dwell on. Good morning, Mrs. Gray, he says, radiating his good mood. Good morning yourself. I grin back as I watch him shave. I love watching him shave. He pulls up his chin and shaves beneath it, taking long, deliberate strokes, and I find myself unconsciously mirroring his actions, pulling my upper lip down just as he does to shave his philtrum. He turns and smirks at me, one half of his face still covered in shaving soap. Enjoying the show? He asks. Oh, Christian, I could watch you for hours. One of my all-time favorites, I murmur, and he leans down and kisses me quickly, smearing shaving soap on my face. Shall I do this to you again? He whispers wickedly and holds up the razor. I purse my lips at him. No, I mutter, pretending to sulk. I'll wax next time. I remember Christian's joy in London when he discovered that during his one meeting there, I'd shaved off my pubic hair out of curiosity. Of course, I hadn't done it to Mr. Exacting's high standards. What the hell have you done? Christian exclaims. He cannot keep his horrified amusement to himself. He sits up in bed in our suite at Brown's Hotel near Piccadilly, switches on the bedside light, and gazes down at me, his mouth a startled "oh." It must be midnight. I blush the color of the sheets in the playroom and try to pull down my satin nightdress so he can't see. He grabs my hand to stop me. Anna, I, shaved. I can see that. Why? He's grinning from ear to ear. I cover my face with my hands. Why am I so embarrassed? Hey, he says softly and pulls my hand away. Don't hide. He's biting his lip so that he won't laugh. Tell me, why? His eyes dance with merriment. Why does he find this so funny? Stop laughing at me. I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry, I'm delighted, he says. Oh, tell me, why? I take a deep breath. This morning, after you left for your meeting, I took a shower and was remembering all your rules. He blinks. The humor in his expression has vanished, and he regards me cautiously. And I was taking them off, one by one, and how I felt about them. And I remembered the beauty salon, and I thought, this is what you'd like. I wasn't brave enough to get a wax. My voice disappears into a whisper. He stares at me, his eyes glowing, this time not with mirth at my folly, but with love. Oh, Anna, he breathes. He leans down and kisses me tenderly. You beguile me. He whispers against my lips and kisses me once more, clasping my face in both his hands. After a breathless moment, he pulls back and leans up on one elbow. The humor is back. I think I should do a thorough inspection of your handiwork, Mrs. Gray. What? No! He has to be kidding. I cover myself, protecting my recently deforested area. Oh, no, you don't, Anastasia. He grasps my hands and pries them away, moving nimbly so he's between my legs and pinning my hands to my sides. He gives me a scorching look that could light dry tinder, but before I combust, he bends and skims his lips down my naked belly directly to my sex. I squirm beneath him, reluctantly resigned to my fate. Well, what have we here? Christian plants a kiss where, until this morning, I had pubic hair, then scrapes his bristly chin across me. Ah! I exclaim. Wow, that's sensitive. Christian's eyes dart to mine, full of salacious longing. I think you missed a bit, he mutters and tugs gently right underneath. Oh, damn, I mutter, hoping this will put an end to his frankly intrusive scrutiny. I have an idea. He leaps naked out of bed and heads to the bathroom. What on earth is he doing? He returns moments later carrying a glass of water, a mug, my razor, his shaving brush, soap, and a towel. He puts the water, brush, soap, and razor on the bedside table and gazes down at me, holding the towel. Oh no! My subconscious slams down her complete works of Charles Dickens, leaps up from her armchair, and puts her hands on her hips. No! 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 I squeak. Mrs. Gray, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Lift your hips. His eyes glow summer storm gray. Christian, you are not shaving me. He tilts his head to one side. Why ever not? I flush. Isn't it obvious? Because it's just too intimate. He whispers, Anna, I crave intimacy with you. You know that. Besides, after some of the things we've done, don't get all squeamish on me now. And I know this part of your body better than you do. I gape at him. Of all of the arrogant... True, he does. But still, it's just wrong! My voice is prissy and whiny. This isn't wrong. This is hot. Hot? Really? This turns you on? I can't keep the astonishment out of my voice. He snorts. Can't you tell? He glances down at his arousal. I want to shave you. He whispers. Oh, what the hell? I lie back, throwing my arm over my face so I don't have to watch. If it makes you happy, Christian, go ahead. You are so kinky, I mutter as I lift my hips, and he slips the towel beneath me. He kisses my inner thigh. Oh, baby, how right you are. I hear the slosh of water as he dips the shaving brush in the glass of water, then the soft swirl of the brush in the mud. He grasps my left ankle and parts my legs, and the bed dips as he sits between my legs. I'd really like to tie you up right now, he murmurs. I promise to keep still. Good. I gasp as he runs the lathered brush over my pubic bone. It's warm. The water in the glass must be hot. I squirm a little. It tickles, but in a good way. Don't move, Christian admonishes and applies the brush again, or I will tie you down. He adds darkly, and a delicious shiver runs down my spine. Have you done this before? I ask tentatively when he reaches for the razor. No. Oh, good. I grin. Another first, Mrs. Gray. I like firsts. Me too. Here goes. And with a gentleness that surprises me, he runs the razor over my sensitive flesh. Keep still, he says distractedly, and I know he's concentrating hard. It's only a matter of minutes before he grabs the towel and wipes all the excess lather off me. There. That's more like it, he muses, and I finally lift my arm to look at him as he sits back to admire his handiwork. Happy? I ask, my voice hoarse. Very. He grins wickedly and slowly eases a finger inside me. But that was fun, he says, his eyes gently mocking. For you, maybe. I try to pout, but he's right. It was arousing. I seem to recall the aftermath was very satisfying. Christian returns to finishing his shave. I glance quickly down at my fingers. Yes, it was. I had no idea that the absence of pubic hair could make such a difference. Hey, I'm just teasing. Isn't that what husbands who are hopelessly in love with their wives do? Christian tips my chin up and gazes at me, his eyes suddenly filled with apprehension as he endeavors to read my expression. Payback time. Sit, I mutter. He stares, not understanding. I push him gently toward the lone white stool in the bathroom. Perplexed, he sits down and I take the razor from him. Anna? He warns as he realizes my intention. I lean down and kiss him. Head back, I whisper. He hesitates. Tit for tat, Mr. Gray. He stares at me with wary, amused disbelief. You know what you're doing? he asks, his voice low. I shake my head slowly, deliberately, trying to look as serious as possible. He closes his eyes and shakes his head, then tilts it back in surrender. Holy shit! He's going to let me shave him. Tentatively, I slide my hand into the damp hair at his forehead, gripping tightly to hold him still. He clenches his eyes closed and parts his lips as he inhales. Very gently, I stroke his razor up from his neck to his chin, revealing a path of skin beneath the lather. Christian exhales. Did you think I was going to hurt you? I never know what you're going to do, Anna, but no, not intentionally. I run the razor up his neck again, clearing a wider path in the lather. I would never intentionally hurt you, Christian. He opens his eyes and circles his arms around me as I gently drag the razor down his cheek from the bottom of his sideburn. I know, he says, angling his face so I can shave the rest of his cheek. 2 more strokes, and I've finished. All done, and not a drop of blood spilled. I grin proudly. He runs his hand up my leg so that my nightdress rides up my thigh and pulls me onto his lap so that I'm astride him. I steady myself with my hands on his upper arms. He's really very muscular. Can I take you somewhere today? No sunbathing? I arch a caustic brow at him. He licks his lips nervously. No sunbathing today. I thought you might prefer something else. Well, since you've covered me in hickeys and effectively put the kibosh on that, sure, why not? Wisely, he chooses to ignore my tone. It's a drive, but it's worth a visit from what I've read. My dad recommended we visit. It's a hilltop village called Saint-Paul-de-Vence. There are some galleries there. I thought we could pick out some paintings or sculptures for the new house, if we find anything we like. I lean back and gaze at him. Art. He wants to buy art. How can I buy art? What? He asks. I know nothing about art, Christian. He shrugs and smiles at me indulgently. We'll buy only what we like. This isn't about investment.
Obviously the Olympic tradition.
What? He says again. I shake my head. Look, I know we only got the architect's drawings the other day, but there's no harm in looking. And the town is an ancient medieval place. Oh, the architect. He had to remind me of her, Gia Matteo, a friend of Elliot's who worked on Christian's place in Aspen. During our meetings, she'd been all over Christian like a rash. What now? Christian exclaims. I shake my head. Tell me, he urges. How can I tell him that I don't like Gia? My dislike is irrational. I don't want to come across as a jealous wife. You're not still mad about what I did yesterday. He sighs and nuzzles his face between my breasts. No, I'm hungry, I mutter, knowing full well that this will distract him from this line of questioning. Why did you say? He eases me off his lap and stands. Saint-Paul-de-Vence is a fortified medieval hilltop village, one of the most picturesque places I have ever seen. I stroll arm in arm with Christian through the narrow cobblestone streets, with my hand in the back pocket of his shorts. Taylor and either Gaston or Philippe, I can't tell the difference between them, trail behind us. We pass a tree-covered square where 3 old men, one wearing a traditional beret in spite of the heat, are playing boule. It's quite crowded with tourists, but I feel comfortable tucked under Christian's arm. There is so much to see. Little alleys and passageways leading to courtyards with intricate stone fountains, ancient and modern sculptures, and fascinating little boutiques and shops. In the first gallery, Christian gazes distractedly at the erotic photographs in front of us, sucking gently on the arm of his aviator specs. They are the work of Florence Dell, naked women in various poses. Not quite what I had in mind, I mumbled disapprovingly. They make me think of the box of photographs I found in his closet. Our closet. I wonder if he ever did destroy them. Me neither, Christian says, grinning down at me. He takes my hand and we stroll to the next artist. Idly, I wonder if I should let him take photos of me. The next display is by a female painter who specializes in still lifes, fruit and vegetables super close up and in rich, glorious color. I like those. I point to 3 paintings of peppers. They remind me of you chopping vegetables in my apartment. I giggle. Christian's mouth twists as he tries and fails to hide his amusement. I thought I managed that quite competently. He mutters, I was just a bit slow, and anyway. He pulls me into an embrace. You were distracting me. Where would you put them? What? Christian is nuzzling my ear. The paintings. Where would you put them? He bites my earlobe and I feel it in my groin. Kitchen, I murmur. Nice idea, Mrs. Gray. I squint at the price. 5,000 euros each. Holy shit. They're really expensive, I gasp. So? He nuzzles me again. Get used to it, Anna. He releases me and saunters over to the desk where a young woman dressed entirely in white is gaping at him. I want to roll my eyes, but turn my attention back to the paintings. 5,000 euros. Jeez. We have finished lunch and are relaxing over coffee at the Hotel de Saint Paul. The view of the surrounding countryside is stunning. Vineyards and fields of sunflowers form a patchwork across the plain, interspersed here and there with neat little French farmhouses. It's such a clear, beautiful day. We can see all the way to the sea, glinting faintly on the horizon. Christian interrupts my reverie. You asked me why I braid your hair, he murmurs. His tone alarms me. He looks guilty. Yes? Oh, shit. The crack whore used to let me play with her hair, I think. I don't know if it's a memory or a dream. Whoa, his birth mom. He gazes at me, his expression unreadable. My heart leaps into my mouth. What do I say when he says things like this? I like it when you play with my hair. My voice is hesitant. He regards me with uncertainty. Do you? Yes. It's the truth. I grasp his hand. I think you loved your birth mother, Christian. His eyes widen and he stares at me impassively, saying nothing. Holy shit. Have I gone too far? Say something, 50, please. But he remains resolutely mute, gazing at me with fathomless gray eyes while the silence stretches between us. He looks lost. He glances down at my hand on his, and he frowns. Say something, I whisper, because I cannot bear the silence any longer. He shakes his head, exhaling deeply. Let's go. He releases my hand and stands, his expression guarded. Have I overstepped the mark? I have no idea. My heart sinks. I don't know whether to say anything else or just let it go. I decide on the latter and follow him dutifully out of the restaurant. In the lovely narrow street, he takes my hand. Where do you want to go? He speaks, and he's not mad at me. Thank heavens. I exhale, relieved, and shrug. I am just glad you're still speaking to me. You know I don't like talking about all that shit. It's done. Finished. He says quietly. No, Christian, it isn't. The thought saddens me, and for the first time I wonder if it will ever be finished. He'll always be 50 Shades. My 50 Shades. Do I want him to change? No, not really. Only insofar as I want him to feel loved. Peeking up at him, I take a moment to admire his captivating beauty. And he's mine. And it's not just the allure of his fine face and his body that has me spellbound. It's what's behind the perfection that draws me, that calls to me. His fragile, damaged soul. He gives me that look, down his nose, half amused, half wary, wholly sexy, then tucks me under his arm. And we make our way through the tourists toward the spot where Philippe/Gaston has parked the roomy Mercedes. I slip my hand back into the back pocket of Christian's shorts, grateful that he isn't mad. But honestly, what 4-year-old child doesn't love his mom, no matter how bad a mom she is? I sigh heavily and hug him closer. I know behind us the security team lurks, and I wonder idly if they've eaten. Christian stops outside a small boutique selling fine jewelry and gazes in the window, then down at me. He grasps my free hand and runs his thumb across the faded red line of the handcuff mark, inspecting it. It's not sore, I reassure him. He twists so that my other hand is freed from his pocket. He clasps that hand too, turning it gently over to examine my wrist. The platinum Omega watch he gave me at breakfast on our first morning in London obscures the red line. The inscription still makes me swoon. Anastasia, you are my more, my love, my life, Christian. In spite of everything, all his 50-ness, my husband can be so romantic. I gaze down at the faint marks on my wrist. Then again, he can be savage sometimes. Releasing my left hand, he tilts my chin up with his fingers and scrutinizes my expression, his eyes troubled. They don't hurt, I repeat. He pulls my hand to his lips and plants a soft, apologetic kiss on the inside of my wrist. Come, he says, and leads me into the shop. Christian holds open the platinum bracelet he's just purchased. It's exquisite, so delicately crafted, the filigree in the shape of small abstract flowers with small diamonds at their hearts. He fastens it around my wrist. It's wide and cuff-like and hides the red marks. It also cost 30,000 euros, I think, though I couldn't really follow the conversation in French with the sales assistant. I have never worn anything so expensive. There, that's better, he murmurs. Better? I whisper, gazing into luminous gray eyes, conscious that the stick-thin sales assistant is staring at us with a jealous and disapproving look. You know why, Christian says uncertainly. I don't need this. I shake my wrist and the cuff moves. It catches the afternoon light streaming through the boutique window, and small sparkling rainbows dance off the diamonds all over the walls of the store. I do, he says with utter sincerity. Why? Why does he need this? Does he feel guilty? About what? The marks? His birth mother? Not confiding in me? Oh, 50. No, Christian, you don't. You've given me so much already. A magical honeymoon, London, Paris, the Côte d'Azur, and you. I'm a very lucky girl, I whisper, and his eyes soften. No, Anastasia, I'm a very lucky man. Thank you. Stretching up on tiptoes, I put my arms around his neck and kiss him, not for giving me the bracelet, but for being mine. Back in the car, he's introspective, gazing out at the fields of bright sunflowers, their heads following and basking in the afternoon sun. One of the twins, I think it's Gaston, is driving and Taylor is beside him up front. Christian is brooding about something. I clasp his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. He glances at me before releasing my hand and caressing my knee. I'm wearing a short, full, blue and white skirt and a blue, fitted, sleeveless shirt. Christian hesitates, and I don't know if his hand is going to travel up my thigh or down my leg. I tense with anticipation at the gentle touch of his fingers, and my breath catches. What's he going to do? He chooses down, suddenly grasping my ankle and pulling my foot onto his lap. I swivel my backside so I'm facing him in the back of the car. I want the other one too. I glance nervously toward Taylor and Gaston, whose eyes are resolutely on the road ahead, and place my other foot on his lap. His eyes cool. He reaches over and presses a button located on his door. In front of us, a lightly tinted privacy screen slides out of a panel, and 10 seconds later, we are effectively on our own. Wow, no wonder the back of this car has so much legroom. I want to look at your ankles. Christian offers his quiet explanation. His gaze is anxious. The cuff marks? Jeez, I thought we'd dealt with this. If there are marks, they are hidden by my sandal straps. I don't recall seeing any this morning. Gently, he strokes his thumb up my right instep, making me wriggle. A smile plays on his lips, and deftly he undoes one strap, and his smile fades as he's confronted with the darker red marks. Doesn't hurt, I murmur. He glances at me and his expression is sad, his mouth a thin line. He nods once as if he's taking me at my word while I shake my sandal loose so it falls to the floor. But I know I've lost him. He's distracted and brooding again, mechanically caressing my foot while he turns away to gaze out the car window once more. Hey, what did you expect? I ask softly. He glances at me and shrugs. I didn't expect to feel like I do looking at these marks, he says. Oh, reticent one minute and forthcoming the next? How 50? How can I keep up with him? How do you feel? Bleak eyes gaze at me. Uncomfortable. He murmurs. Oh no. I unbuckle my seatbelt and scoot closer to him, leaving my feet in his lap. I want to crawl into his lap and hold him, and I would if it were just Taylor in the front. But knowing Gaston is there cramps my style despite the glass. If only it were darker. I clench his hands. It's the hickeys I don't like, I whisper. Everything else. What you did? I lower my voice even further. With the handcuffs? I enjoyed that. Well, more than enjoyed. It was mind-blowing. You can do that to me again anytime. He shifts in his seat. Mind-blowing? My inner goddess looks up, startled, from her Jackie Collins. Yes, I grin. I flex my toes into his hardening crotch and see, rather than hear, his sharp intake of breath, his lips parting. You should really be wearing your seatbelt, Mrs. Gray. His voice is low, and I curl my toes around him once more. He inhales and his eyes darken, and he clasps my ankle in warning. Does he want me to stop? Continue? He pauses, scowls, then fishes his ever-present BlackBerry out of his pocket to take an incoming call while glancing at his watch. His frown deepens. Barney, he snaps. Crap. Work interrupting us again. I try to remove my feet, but he tightens his fingers around my ankle. In the server room? He says in disbelief. Did it activate the fire suppression system? Fire? I take my feet off his lap, and this time he lets me. I sit back in my seat, buckle my seatbelt, and fiddle nervously with his 30,000 euro bracelet. Christian presses the button on his door armrest again, and the privacy glass slides down. Anyone injured? Damage? I see. When? Christian glances at his watch again, then runs his fingers through his hair. No, not the fire department or the police. Not yet, anyway. A fire? At Christian's office? I gape at him, my mind racing. Taylor shifts so we can hear Christian's conversation. Has he? Good. Okay, I want a detailed damage report and a complete rundown of everyone who had access over the last 5 days, including the cleaning staff. Get hold of Andrea and get her to call me. Yeah, sounds like the argon is just as effective, worth its weight in gold. Damage report? Argon? It rings a distant bell from chemistry class. An element, I think. I realize it's early. Email me in 2 hours. No, I need to know. Thank you for calling me. Christian hangs up, then immediately punches a number into the BlackBerry. Welch. Good. When? Christian glances at his watch yet again. An hour then. Yes. 24/7 at the offsite data store. Good. He hangs up. Philippe, I need to be on board within the hour. Monsieur. Shit, it's Philippe, not Gaston. The car surges forward. Christian glances at me, his expression unreadable. Anyone hurt? I ask quietly. Christian shakes his head. Very little damage. He reaches over and clasps my hand, squeezing it reassuringly. Don't worry about this. My team is on it. And there he is, the CEO, in command, in control, and not flustered at all. Where was the fire? Server room. Grey House? Yes. His responses are clipped, so I know he doesn't want to talk about it. Why so little damage? The server room is fitted with a state-of-the-art fire suppression system. Of course it is. Anna, please, don't worry. I'm not worried. I lie. We don't know for sure that it was arson, he says, cutting to the heart of my anxiety. My hand clutches my throat in fear. Charlie Tango, and now this? What next?
Thanks for the message, Jeremy.
Chapter 4.
Yeah, plenty to look forward to on that.
I'm restless. Christian has been holed up in the onboard study for over an hour. I have tried reading, watching TV, sunbathing, fully dressed sunbathing, but I can't relax, and I can't rid myself of this edgy feeling. After changing into shorts and a t-shirt, I remove the ludicrously expensive cuff and go to find Taylor. Mrs. Gray, he says, startled from his Anthony Burgess novel. He is sitting in the small salon outside Christian's study. I'd like to go shopping. Yes, ma'am. He stands. I'd like to take the jet ski. His mouth drops open. He frowns at a loss for words. I don't want to bother Christian with this. He represses a sigh. Mrs. Gray, I don't think Mr. Gray would be very... The right amount of frustrated indignation that I am not mistress of my own destiny. Then again, I don't want Christian to be mad at Taylor, or me for that matter. Striding confidently past him, I knock on the study door and enter. Christian is on his BlackBerry, leaning against the mahogany desk. He glances up. Andrea, hold please. He mutters into the phone, his expression serious. His gaze is politely expectant. Shit. Why do I feel like I've entered the principal's office? This man had me in handcuffs yesterday. I refuse to be intimidated by him. He's my husband, damn it. I square my shoulders and give him a broad smile. I'm going shopping. I'll take security with me. Sure. Take one of the twins, and Taylor too. He says. And I know that whatever's happening is serious, because he doesn't question me further. I stand staring at him, wondering if I can help. Anything else? He asks. He wants me gone. Can I get you anything? I ask. He smiles his sweet, shy smile. No, baby, I'm good. He says. The crew will look after me. Okay. I want to kiss him. Hell, I can. He's my husband. Strolling purposefully forward, I plant a kiss on his lips, surprising him. Andrea, I'll call you back, he mutters. He puts the BlackBerry down on the desk behind him, pulls me into his embrace, and kisses me passionately. I am breathless when he releases me. His eyes are dark and needy. You're distracting me. I need to sort this so I can get back to my honeymoon. He runs an index finger down my face and caresses my chin, tilting my face up. Okay, I'm sorry. Please don't apologize, Mrs. Gray. I love your distractions. He kisses the corner of my mouth. I love your distractions. He kisses the corner of my mouth. Go spend some money. He releases me. Will do. I smirk at him as I exit his study. My subconscious shakes her head and purses her lips. You didn't tell him you were going on the jet ski. We're going on the jet ski. She chastises her sing-songy voice. I ignore her. I ignore her.
Hello
Rabbi.
everyone, welcome to the History of the World
Taylor is
podcast.
patiently waiting.
With me, Chris Hasler.
That's all cleared with
We're
high
just,
command.
having a
Can we
bit of
go?
a break from
I
the
smile,
usual
trying to
episodes
keep the sarcasm out of my voice.
Volume 4, which
Taylor
will be
doesn't
coming.
hide.
And,
Taylor
in the
patiently
meantime,
talks
we'll
me
be
through the
broadcasting
controls on the jet
weekly
ski and how to
episodes,
ride it.
just a bit
He has a calm,
informal
gentle
stuff,
authority about him.
just something for you
He's
to
a good
listen to
teacher.
and stay in touch with the podcast.
We are in the motor launch,
Nothing special,
bobbing
but
and
just,
weaving on the calm
just a
waters
bit
of the
a
harbor,
catch-up.
beside the fair lady.
I thought this week
Gaston
I
looks
might,
on, his expression hidden by his shades, and one of the fair lady's crew is at the controls of the motor launch. Geez, 3 people with me, just because I want to go shopping. It's ridiculous. Zipping up my life jacket, I give Taylor a beaming grin. He holds out his hand to assist me as I climb onto the jet ski. Fasten the strap of the ignition key around your wrist, Mrs. Gray. If you fall off, the engine will cut out automatically. He explains. Okay, ready? I nod enthusiastically. Press the ignition when you've drifted about 4 feet away from the boat. We'll follow you. Okay. He pushes the jet ski away from the launch and it floats gently into the main harbor. When he gives me the OK sign, I press the ignition button and the engine roars to life. Okay, Mrs. Gray. Easy does it, Taylor shouts. I squeeze the accelerator. The jet ski lurches forward, then stalls. Crap! How does Christian make it look so easy? I try again, and once again, I stall. Double crap. Just steady on the gas, Mrs. Gray, Taylor calls. Yeah, I mutter under my breath. I try once more, very gently squeezing the lever, and the jet ski lurches forward, but this time it keeps going. Yes! It goes some more. Ha-ha! It still keeps going. I want to shout and squeal in excitement, but I resist. I cruise gently away from the yacht into the main harbor. Behind me, I hear the throaty roar of the motor launch. When I squeeze the gas further, the jet ski leaps forward, skating across the water. With the warm breeze in my hair and a fine sea spray on either side of me, I feel free. This rocks. No wonder Christian never lets me drive. Rather than head for the shore and curtail the fun, I veer around to do a circuit of the stately fair lady. Wow, this is so much fun. I ignore Taylor and the crew behind me and speed around the yacht for a second time. As I complete the circuit, I spot Christian on deck. I think he's gaping at me, though it's difficult to tell. Bravely, I lift one hand from the handlebars and wave enthusiastically at him. He looks like he's made of stone, but finally he raises his hand in the semblance of a stiff wave. I can't work out his expression, and something tells me I don't want to. So I head to the marina, speeding across the blue water of the Mediterranean, which shimmers in the late afternoon sun. At the dock, I wait and let Taylor pull up ahead of me. His expression is bleak, and my heart sinks, though Gaston looks vaguely amused. I wonder briefly if something has happened to chill Gallic-American relations, but deep down I suspect the problem is probably me. Gaston leaps out of the motorboat and ties it to the moorings, while Taylor directs me to come alongside. Very gently, I ease the jet ski into position beside the boat and line up beside him. His expression softens a little. Just switch off the ignition, Mrs. Gray, he says calmly, reaching for the handlebars and holding out a hand to help me into the motorboat. I nimbly climb aboard, impressed that I don't fall in. Mrs. Gray," Taylor says nervously, his cheeks pink once more. "Mr. Gray is not entirely comfortable with you riding on jet skis." He's practically squirming with embarrassment, and I realize he's had an irate call from Christian. Oh, my poor, pathologically overprotective husband. What am I going to do with you? I smile serenely at Taylor. "I see. Well, Taylor, Mr. Gray is not here, and if he's not entirely comfortable, I'm sure he'll give me the courtesy of telling me himself when I'm back on board." Taylor winces. "Very good, Mrs. Gray," he says quietly, handing me my purse. As I climb out of the boat, I catch a glimpse of his reluctant smile, and it makes me want to smile too. I cannot believe how fond I am of Taylor, but I really don't appreciate being scolded by him. He's not my father or my husband. I sigh. Christian's mad, and he has enough to worry about at the moment. What was I thinking? As I stand on the dock waiting for Taylor to climb up, I feel my BlackBerry vibrate in my purse and fish it out. Sade's "Your Love is King" is my ringtone for Christian. Only for Christian. "Hi," I murmur. "Hi," he says. "I'll come back on the boat. Don't be mad." I hear his small gasp of surprise. "It was fun though," I whisper. He sighs. "Well, far be it for me to curtail your fun, Mrs. Gray. Just be careful, please." Oh my! Permission to have fun? I will. Anything you want from town? Just you, back in one piece. I'll do my best to comply, Mr. Gray. I'm glad to hear it, Mrs. Gray. We aim to please, I respond with a giggle. I hear the smile in his voice. I have another call. Laters, baby. Laters, Christian. He hangs up. Jet ski crisis averted, I think. The car is waiting, and Taylor holds the door open for me. I wink at him as I climb in, and he shakes his head in amusement. In the car, I fire up the email on my BlackBerry. From Anastasia Gray. Subject, thank you. Date, August 17th, 2011, 16:55. To Christian Gray. For not being too grouchy. Your loving wife. XXX. From Christian Gray. Subject, trying to stay calm. Date, August 17th, 2011, 16:59. To Anastasia Gray. You're welcome. Come back in one piece. This is not a request. X. Christian Gray, CEO and overprotective husband. Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. His response makes me smile. My control freak. Why did I want to come shopping? I hate shopping. But deep down, I know why. And I walk determinedly past Chanel, Gucci, Dior, and the other designer boutiques, and eventually find the antidote to what ails me in a small, overstocked, touristy store. It's a little silver ankle bracelet with small hearts and little bells. It tinkles sweetly and it costs €5. As soon as I've bought it, I put it on. This is me. This is what I like. Immediately, I feel more comfortable. I don't want to lose touch with the girl who likes this, ever. Deep down, I know that I'm not only overwhelmed by Christian himself, but also by his wealth. Will I ever get used to it? Taylor and Gaston follow me dutifully through the late afternoon crowds, and I soon forget they are there. I want to buy something for Christian, something to take his mind off the electronics store. Our visit to the gallery earlier today, and our visit to the Louvre, come back to me. We were looking at the Venus de Milo at the time. Christian's words echo in my head. We can all appreciate the female form. We love to look whether in marble or oils or sex or film. It gives me an idea, a daring idea. I just need help choosing the right one, and there's only one person who can help me.
versions.
I wrestle my BlackBerry out of my purse and call Jose.
Pretty much
Who?
why Turkey
He
is a
mumbles
big landing
sleepily.
country today.
Jose,
So,
it's Anna.
Turkey
Anna, hi. Where are you?
how they
You
actually
okay?
took over at
He sounds more alert
became
now, concerned.
the culture
I'm in
that
Cannes
recognised
in the
that
south of
today.
France, and I'm fine. South
what
of France,
happened
huh?
in order for
You in
the
some
Ottomans
fancy
to take
hotel?
over from the Celtics?
No.
And,
We're
it
staying
was
on a
up to
boat.
that,
A boat?
period
A
of,
big boat.
the
I clarify,
late
sighing.
1453,
I see.
the fall of
His tone
Constantinople.
chills.
So,
Shit. I should not have called him. I don't need this right now. Jose, I need your advice. My advice? He sounds stunned. Sure, he says, and this time he's much more friendly. I tell him my plan.
But then we'll also be tracking the story.
2 hours later, Taylor helps me out of the motor launch onto the steps up to the deck. Gaston is helping the deckhand with the jet ski. Christian is nowhere to be seen, and I scurry down to our cabin to wrap his present, feeling a childish sense of delight. You were gone some time. Christian startles me just as I am applying the last piece of tape. I turn to find him standing tentatively. More armor, hoping to lighten his mood, and praying his annoyance is not directed at me. He smiles warmly, and I know we're okay. What did you buy? This. I put my foot up on the bed and show him my ankle chain. Very nice, he says. He steps over to me and fondles the tiny bells so that they jingle sweetly around my ankle. He frowns again and runs his fingers lightly along the mark, sending tingles up my leg. And this. I hold out the box, hoping to distract him. For me? He asks in surprise. I nod shyly. He takes the box and shakes it gently. He grins his boyish, dazzling smile and sits down beside me on the bed. Leaning over, he grasps my chin and kisses me. Thank you, he says with shy delight. You haven't opened it yet. I'll love it, whatever it is. He gazes down at me, his eyes glowing. I don't get many presents. It's hard to buy you things. You have everything. I have you. You do. I grin at him. Oh, you so do, Christian. He makes short work of the wrapping paper. Nikon? He glances up at me, puzzled. I know you have your compact digital camera, but this is for, portraits and the like. It comes with 2 lenses. He blinks at me, still not understanding. Today in the gallery, you liked the Florence Dell photographs, and I remember what you said in the Louvre. And, of course, there were those other photographs. I swallow, trying my best not to recall the images I found in his closet. He stops breathing, his eyes widening as realization dawns, and I continue hurriedly before I lose my nerve. I thought you might, like to take pictures of me. Pictures of you? He gapes at me, ignoring. I nod, desperately trying to gauge his reaction. Finally, he gazes back down at the box, his fingers tracing over the illustration of the camera on the front with fascinated reverence. What is he thinking? Oh, this is not the reaction I was expecting, and my subconscious glares at me like I'm a domesticated farm animal. I was expecting, and my subconscious glares at me like I'm a domesticated farm animal. Christian never reacts the way I expect. He looks back up, his eyes filled with, what, pain? Why do you think I want this? He asks, bemused. No. You said you'd love it. Don't you? I ask, refusing to acknowledge my subconscious, who is questioning why anyone would want erotic photographs of me. Christian swallows and runs a hand through his hair, and he looks so lost, so confused.
He
takes a deep breath. For me, photos like those have usually been an insurance policy, Anna. I know I've objectified women for so long, he says, and pauses awkwardly. And you think taking pictures of me is, objectifying me? All the air leaves my body, and the blood drains from my face. He scrunches up his eyes. I am so confused, he whispers. When he opens his eyes again, they are wide and wary, full of some motion. Why do you say that? I whisper. Shit, should I call Flynn? And in a possibly unique moment of extraordinary depth and clarity, it comes to me. The fire, the jet ski. He's scared. He's scared for me. And seeing these marks on my skin must bring that home. He's been fussing about them all day, confusing himself because he's not used to feeling uncomfortable about inflicting pain. The thought chill cuff he bought me this afternoon used to be. Avoid it. Stop brooding about it. I like rough sex. I've told you that before. I blush scarlet as I try to quash my rising pain. He looks at me intently, and I have no idea what he's thinking. Measuring my words, I stumble on. Is this about the fire? Do you think it's connected somehow to Charlie Tango? Is this why you're worried? Talk to me, Christian, please. He stares at me, saying nothing, and the silence expands between us again as it did this afternoon. Holy fuck, old quietly, and the words echo, disturbing a memory from the recent past. His words to me at him, so his beautiful, anxious face fills the frame. I press the button and keep it pressed, and 10 pictures of Christian's alarm murmur, pressing the shutter again. On the final still, his lips twitch almost imperceptibly. I press again, and this time he smiles. A small smile, but a smile nevertheless. I hold down the button once more and see him physically relax in front of me, and pout. A full-on, posed, ridiculous, blue steel pout, and it makes me giggle. Oh, thank heavens! Mr. Mercurial is back. And I've never been so pleased to see him. I thought it was my present, he mutters sulkily, but I think he's teasing. Well, it was supposed to be fun, but apparently it's a symbol of women's oppression. I snap away, taking more pictures of him, and watch the amusement grow on his face in super close up. Then his eyes darken, and his expression changes to predatory. Do you want to be oppressed? He murmurs sulkily. Not oppressed, no, I murmur back. His dried me. Hey! I exclaim, and take more photographs of him, smiling down at me with dark intent. He grabs the camera by the lens, and the photographer becomes the subject as he points the Nikon at me and presses the shutter down. So you want me to take pictures of you, Mrs. Gray, he says, amused. All I can see of his face is his unruly hair and a broad grin on his face, he says, and he tickles me ruthlessly under my ribs, making me squeal and giggle and squirm beneath him until I grasp his wrist in a vain attempt to make him stop. His grin widens, and he renews his efforts while snapping pictures. No! Stop! I scream. Are you kidding? He growls, and puts the camera down beside us so that he can torture me with both hands. Christian! I splutter and gasp my laughing protest. He has never, ever tickled me before. Fuck! Stop! I thrash my head from side to side, trying to wiggle out from under him, giggling and pushing both of his hands away. But he's unrelenting, grinning down at me, enjoying my torment. Christian, stop! I plead, and he stops suddenly. Grabbing both of my hands, he holds them down on either side side of my head while looming over me. I am panting and my lungs stop functioning. Wonder? Love? Reverence? Holy cow. There, holding me gently in place. And my body rises and fills with my arousal, responding to his kiss. And suddenly, the name alters, no longer sweet, reverential, and admiring, but carnal, deep, and devouring. His tongue invading my mouth, taking, not giving, his killing every muscle and sinew in its wake. I feel a frisson of alarm. Oh, 50, what's wrong? He inhales sharply and groans. Oh, what you do to me. He murmurs, lost and raw. He moves suddenly, lying down on top of me, pressing me into my chin, the other skimming over my body, my breast, my waist, my hip, and around my behind. He kisses me again, pushing his leg between mine, raising my knee and grinding against me, his erection straining against our clothes and my sex. I gasp and moan against his lips, losing myself to his fervent self, to the insane rhythm and pace he's setting. I briefly wonder once more what's driving him, worrying him. But my body takes over, obliterating the thought, climbing and building so I am awash with sensation, meeting him thrust for thrust, listening to his harsh breathing, labored and fierce at my ear, knowing that he's lost in me. I groan loudly, panting. It's so erotic, his need for me. I am reaching, and he is driving me higher, overwhelming me, taking me. And I want this. I want this so much, for him and for me. My eyes flicker open. His passion and his love is my undue driving into me as we boast. You, me. Yes, you, still dressed. Oh. He glances down at himself, tickling. Ah, the tickling. I move quickly so that I'm straddling him, but immediately. Chapter 5. I stir, instinctively reaching for Christian, only to feel his absence. Shit. I wake and he pulls me into his embrace, then grabs my head between his legs, trying for faux righteous indignation. He grins, looking gorgeous, then leans in and I am so tired. Traveling is exhausting, even in first class. Gently. No, Mrs. Gray, I wouldn't. But I would know I could keep you safe, because you wouldn't defy me. He sounds vaguely regretful. Shit. I like even though you're fat. He kisses me again, more heated this time, there at the pink and golden streaks of the new dawn through the vast windows. His arm is hopeless to the ground. And now, here I am, Mrs. Christian Gray, married to the most delicious, sexy, philanthropic, absurdly wealthy mogul a woman could meet. How did this all happen so fast? I shift onto my side to gaze at him, wake him, but it has the opposite effect. Damn! Two bright eyes gaze at me. What's wrong? Nothing. Go back to sleep. I try my reassuring smile. He stretches, rubs his face, and then grins at me. Jet lag? He asks. Is that what this is? I can't sleep. I have the universal panacea right here. It strikes me how unsure he is of himself. I suspect that he's always been like this, but has just hidden his uncertainty beneath an intimidating exterior. He's very easy to tease, probably because he's not used to it. It's a revelation, and I marvel again that we still have so much to learn about each other. Don't worry, I'll stick to the sob, I mutter, into the window, trying to shake off my bad mood. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. You're so up and down today with me. Anna, Kate exclaims, snapping me out of my reverie. You look so well, she says, though she frowns as she's to the happy couple. Carrick grins and raises his glass, and everyone around the table echoes the sentiment. And congratulations to Ethan for getting into the psych program at Seattle, chips in Mia proudly. Christian is running through our extensive itinerary over the last 3 weeks, embellishing here and there. He sounds relaxed and in control, the worry of the arsonist forgotten. I, on the other hand, don't seem to be able to. She was joking. My subconscious glares at me again of the deathly hush that's fallen over the room. Kate glances questioningly at me, and I shrug. Christian turns on the stool and frowns, embarrassed to realize he's become the center of attention. Go on, Grace urges softly. I've never heard you sing, Christian. Never. She stares at him in wonder. He sits on the piano stool, looking absently at her, and, after a beat, he shrugs. His eyes flicker nervously to me, then over to the French window. The rest of the room suddenly erupts in self-conscious chatter, and I'm left watching my dear husband. Grace distracts me, grasping my hands, then suddenly folding me in her arms. Oh, darling girl. Climb into the Audi SUV. I had no idea our security had followed us here. I pause before I set out onto the main road. You're sure about this? Yes, Christian says. I'm nervous and excited. Adrenaline spikes through my system. He picks up the phone again. Okay on the 520. As soon as we hit it. Yes, I will. He slots the phone into the speaker cradle, putting it on hands-free, straight ahead. I don't want you to panic, he says calmly. But as soon as we're on the 520 proper, I want you to step on the gas. We're being followed. Followed? Holy shit! My heart lurches into my mouth, pounding. My scalp prickles and my throat constricts with panic. Followed by whom? My eyes dart to the rearview mirror and, sure enough, the dark car I saw earlier is still behind us. Fuck, is that it? I squint through the tinted windshield to see who's driving, but I see nothing. Keep your eyes on the road, baby. Christian says just to subdue the drive. Put ourselves between your car. Unsub? What does that mean? Good would have let Flynn know. Let's discuss this when we're not where you're concerned. He snaps. He replaces the BlackBerry in its cradle so we're back in contact with our security team. Oh, shit. I don't want to rattle Christian right now. Later, maybe. I hold my tongue. Fortunately, the traffic is thinning a little. I am able to speed over the mountain like the I-5, weaving through the cars again. What if we get ups? I ask. That would be a good thing. Not for my license. I put my foot down 75. Boy, this car can't caster. I push my foot down once more and streak past the traffic. Flash the headlights. Christian orders when a Ford Mustang. Where are the headlights? The indicator. Pull it toward you. I do it, and the Mustang moves aside, though not before the driver waves his finger at me in a none too complimentary manner. I zoom past him. He's the asshole, Christian says under his breath, then barks at me. Get off on Stewart. Yes, sir. We're taking the Stewart Street exit, Christian says to Sawyer. Head straight to Escala, sir. I slow, check my mirrors, signal, then move with surprising ease across 4 lanes of the highway and down the off-ramp. Merging onto Stewart Street, we head south. The street is quiet, with few vehicles. Where is everyone? Way, I mutter, panicked by the fact that the Dodge is still on our tail. Head south on Stewart. Keep going until I tell you when. Christian sounds anxious again. I zoom past 3 blocks, but the lights change to yellow on Yale Avenue. Run them, Anna! Christian shouts. I jump so hard I floor the gas pedal, throwing us both back in our seats, speeding through the now red. Wipe my nose again. My beautiful, brave girl, he whispers. Kiss me again. Christian's on me as he moves his right hand into my hair, holding me in place, and lifts his left my face. It stands for unknown so. He sighs, turns into the underground garage at Escala, and punches the access. I have to input a code. Overthinking. speculatively, as if he's trying to read my mind. I put my shoes down and, I think, my clothes on the chest, followed by the telltale clatter of his shoes as they drop to the floor, one at a time. Love barefoot Christian. A moment later, I hear him pull open a drawer, breathing spikes. How can the sound of a drawer render me a quivering mess? The subtle hiss of the sound sets my face flush against the hard surface. Tell me, he whispers, his voice hoarse and urgent. Yummy. He withdraws. Not what you think, he murmurs reassuringly. I told you, one step at a time, my muscles protesting at the intrusion. He circles his thumb inside me and pushes the plug harder, and it slips in easily. And I don't know if it's because I'm so turned on, or if he's distracted me with his expert fingers, but my body seems to accept it. It's heavy and strange. There. Oh, baby. Thumb swirls inside me, and the plug, eliciting